To be outside riding bikes or scooters, and they can easily enter a blind spot or seemingly appear out of nowhere. The University of Utah says they're fighting an uphill battle when it comes to contaminants in their century-old water system. KSL News Radio's Cameron Elliott reports.
A building at the University of Utah reportedly tested above the action level for copper contamination in their water in 2025. The EPA says when levels get this high, something must be done to reduce the levels or human health could be at risk. The university told the Daily Utah Chronicle, quote, maintaining and modernizing a water system serving a 150-year-old campus requires long-term planning and sustained investment.
According to an inventory report by the university, some of their water systems are as old as 1874. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, TSA security lines are still long as the partial government shutdown drags on. Many workers are calling out to find other kinds of work that will pay the bills. President Trump has deployed ICE agents at airports, but those agents aren't trained to screen bags or run the screening equipment. More from ABC's Steve Osunsami at Atlanta's Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport.
The president is also now talking about sending in the National Guard to help. It's very hard for people to get a beat on how long these lines are from the websites, for example, because the systems, the cameras that they use to measure the lines only are designed to measure the lines of people inside the airport and not around the block. One piece of advice that we're hearing now is for people to choose to fly at off-peak hours.
TSA officers have gone nearly 40 days without getting paid. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 63 points to 46,271. Coming up, warm today, even warmer tomorrow. Check weather next. KSL News Time, 9:02.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey and Wisconsin.
Couponing. Wow, you didn't strike me as the coupon type.
Just trying to stay ahead of inflation. Gas, groceries, everything. It's all more expensive. I need to save wherever I can.
Have you tried Upside yet?
Upside? What's that?
It's a free app that I use that pays cash back for every gallon of gas I buy. You've got to buy gas to get around anyway. Might as well get paid for it.
Come on, does that really add up to anything?
I've already made around $200. The extra cash helped pay down my bills, and I even had a little extra left to treat myself.
And the Upside app is free?
Totally free, and the cash back is real. You can transfer the cash right to your bank account.
I'm downloading Upside right now.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code ENJOY to get an extra 25 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, to PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code ENJOY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code ENJOY for a 25 cents per gallon bonus.
Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. So you're invited to visit the movie show Friday 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Grand Staircase Escalante is under attack. Utah politicians are hastily racing to dismantle protections for this special place, one of America's most treasured national monuments and an important part of southern Utah's economy. An overwhelming majority of Utahns support protecting the Grand Staircase for future generations. Yet our voices are being ignored by those meant to represent us. Now's the moment to speak up. Learn more about this attack and what could permanently be lost at suwa.org. Paid for by Southern Utah Wilderness Alliance.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. You can feel the spring in the air. As a matter of fact, we've been feeling the spring in the air all winter long, but as the season genuinely changes, it's time to make your reservation at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, Hotel Park City and downtown Salt Lake City. And don't forget, quite a few great events are just around the corner, including some holidays. We'll have a lot of visitors in Salt Lake City before long, and it's time to make your reservation at the downtown location, 275 South West Temple. And of course, up in the mountains, it is beautiful. There's still some skiing going on. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is right there at Hotel Park City. The best meal you have ever had awaits you at Ruth's Chris. Whether it's steaks, whether it's poultry, whether it's seafood, the side dishes, the desserts, you're going to love Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, downtown Salt Lake City and Hotel Park City.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at UCCU.com. Still got some slow spots, Cormac?
Yeah, that's right, Andy. But it looks like northbound I-15 delays are really starting to break up. It's still slow from the point of the mountain to Bangerter Highway. Then you get a little bit of a break through Draper until it's slow again at 90th South all the way up to 3300 South. We also do still have some delays eastbound on Pioneer Crossing behind a crash that is at Mill Pond Road. They're blocking the left shoulder. Out of traffic behind the construction cone, so delays there aren't beyond the normal. It's starting at 500 West. Delays are heavier actually on 2100 North in Lehigh eastbound between about Redwood Road and I-15. You deserve a home that feels like a sanctuary. Dreammaker Bath and Kitchen makes remodeling simple with one team, fixed pricing, and clear timelines. Schedule your consultation today at dreammakerremodel.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather forecast today, sunny with highs near 80, upper 70s. We might hit 80. Tomorrow, though, the KSL Weather Center is saying we're going over 80, maybe a high of 83 degrees. That would be a record. Lots of sun with these temperatures. Right now, though, 55 degrees and cloudy in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
I'm joined today by Jem Bennett. Greg has the day off, so thanks for being with me, Jem. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
So we're going to talk about the Supreme Court today. They're set to hear a case that will determine whether the Trump administration can turn away asylum seekers along the U.S.-Mexico border. So the way it works right now is that people who are already in the United States or are at the border can apply for asylum if they meet the international definition of a refugee. That's somebody who can't return to their home country because they're unable or unwilling to do so and can't get protection there due to a well-founded fear of persecution. So you can have people, for example, who are Christian in predominantly Muslim countries who may apply for asylum. There's a variety of reasons, right? But right now, they can do it at the border. So I wanted to talk to Kelsey Dallas. She's the managing editor of SCOTUS blog and just really an expert on the Supreme Court about what this is setting up. So thanks for joining us, Kelsey.
Thanks for having me.
I'm wondering, can you just help us understand what's going on here and what, like, why is this even a court case?
Right. Your overview was totally on point. One thing that I wanted to be sure to highlight is that while this case is very significant to the Trump administration's policies at the U.S.-Mexico border, it actually matters quite a bit for all future presidents and presidents such as in the past Barack Obama and Joe Biden, because amid surges at the U.S.-Mexico border, presidents from both parties have been known to restrict who can enter the United States based on the assumption that entry is what's most crucial in the debate about whether immigrants can apply for asylum. And if the Supreme Court sides with the lower court, saying that you don't actually have to cross the border physically to apply for asylum, that limits the options available to presidential administrations who are worried about the amount of people coming across the U.S.-Mexico border.
So is that specifically what they want to change? They want to be able to make sure that they can apply for asylum without being at the border?
Well, yes, there was a lawsuit filed in response to this practice of stopping asylum seekers before they reach the United States. And a lower court has ruled that even if you stop asylum seekers before they cross physically the United States, they should still be allowed under our immigration law to apply for asylum, because even just interacting with a U.S. border official, the court said, would satisfy the part of the law saying that you have to arrive in the United States. Now, listeners might think, wait a second, why would arrive mean talking to a border official? Like, why would arrive mean coming up to the border rather than actual crossing the border? And that's really what the Supreme Court is wrestling with. And one of the questions is, like, why does the law overemphasize in one aspect physical presence in the United States, but then also include the phrase arrive in the United States? The justices are considering whether those two phrases are meant to overlap and essentially mean the same thing, or if there really is something different about arriving, which could include still being in Mexico, but sort of alerting the U.S. government to wanting to apply for asylum.
So, Kelsey, in practicality, if they were to rule that you don't have to be on U.S. soil to apply, what would that look like for people seeking asylum? Would they remain in Mexico close to the border for months?
Yes, but it would still be a win because they would have at least more rights to contact the U.S. and apply for asylum, whereas if the government wins, there would be this block where the asylum seekers would have to somehow make it into the U.S. in order to apply for asylum. So to state that more clearly, the United States government has been taking an approach that says, okay, if we don't want this many asylum seekers, we need to keep them in Mexico so that they then really aren't able to apply. But if the court says even if you sort of require them to stay in Mexico, they still have a right to apply, that would then limit the government's options for sort of staunching the tide of asylum seekers.
Well, this is a huge focus for the Supreme Court and for the Trump administration right now. I mean, this has been one of the Trump administration's biggest sort of one of the biggest issues, immigration particularly. What's the outlook then for? Are they optimistic? Is the Trump administration optimistic that they're going to get the kind of ruling that they're looking for?
Well, it's fascinating. Just to take a step back, the Supreme Court, the cases that make it to the Supreme Court, as we've discussed on this program before, move at quite a slow pace. It could take years from the point when a lawsuit is filed for it to actually be in front of the Supreme Court. So it's fascinating that a lawsuit filed in, I believe, 2018 in response to a policy from the first Trump administration is now being argued at the Supreme Court with the second Trump administration in office. And in between there, you had the Biden administration also supporting this position about having to physically be in the United States. So again, it is a focus of the Trump administration, but presidents from both parties have been known to practice this same restriction at the border and sort of have this position that asylum seekers have to physically cross the United States. It's complicated because the Supreme Court will be looking at the text of the policy and saying, what does it mean to arrive in the United States? And as I noted, you think there's a common definition of the word arrive that would be like, yes, I actually arrived at the party. I came into the party. But the Supreme Court often emphasizes that it's strange for lawmakers to duplicate similar phrases with the same meaning. And so they may accept the argument from the asylum seekers that says arrive must be something different than being physically present because the law also includes a line about being physically present. So it's really up in the air what the Supreme Court will do. We'll have a better sense this afternoon after arguments have concluded.
So, Kelsey, we only have about 30 seconds, but I wanted to know if you could just in 30 seconds tell us about temporary protected status and what the Supreme Court's going to do with that.
Yes, immigration is in the spotlight in general this term. Next week, the court will hear argument on President Donald Trump's birthright citizenship executive order. And then in late April, they will hear a case on temporary protected status. This is where immigrants from certain countries that are involved in war or natural disasters are allowed to sort of make themselves known to the U.S. government and become legally able to work in the United States temporarily and be safe from deportation temporarily. And the Trump administration has rolled back protections for several countries that previously had TPS protections. And the question before the court is the Trump administration allowed to so dramatically shrink the size of the temporary protected status program, or has it somehow violated the process for which sort of countries are evaluated and allowed to have people here in the U.S.? So that's another significant one with more than a million lives at stake.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Kelsey Dallas, the managing editor of SCOTUS blog. And when we come back, we're going to talk again about the Supreme Court, specifically mail-in ballots. And, you know, it's been an issue, Jim, with the president wanting to roll back mail-in balloting, but he just cast his own ballot in Florida by mail. So we're going to talk about that.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370, or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Join us for one of the premier horse sales in the region. Over 80 head of quality performance horses will be offered, including ranch horses, rope horses, prospects, and trail horses. Located Wasatch County Event Center in Heber City, Utah. On March the 27th and 28th, trail competition and preview begin at 9 a.m. The tax sale will be at 6 o'clock that night on Friday the 27th. The auction begins at 11 a.m. on Saturday the 28th. Whether you're looking for your next arena partner or a dependable ranch horse, this sale has something for everyone. Family-friendly atmosphere, top-quality consignments, opportunities for every level of rider. Don't miss your chance to find your next great horse. For information, consignments, and sale detail, contact Heber Valley Horse Sales or call me at 801-368-5498 or go to our website, HeberHorseSales.com. That's HeberHorseSales.com. Mark your calendar and be there Friday and Saturday, March 27th and 28th.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles. Drugstore insoles, custom insoles. I spent thousands of dollars. I bought all these products, and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet. And the Good Feet arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
For over 20 years, we've been helping people like Teresa actually live the life they love without their feet getting in the way.
They wanted to make sure that I got something that my feet felt good in, not somebody else's feet. I love the fact that I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. I have boots, I have cowboy boots, I have running shoes, I have walking shoes, I have flat shoes, I have heels. It makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store. I'm Teresa, and that's my Good Feet story.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Do you worry about how much someone drinks?
Do you feel neglected or unloved? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are not alone.
Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 1-866-200-0223 or visit alanon.org/help.
Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and they watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror. I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness.
Because,
That is something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
Amanda, I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's AndCollar, ANDCollar.com.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So we've been talking a lot about mail-in balloting. And of course, Jim, you know that Utah has been using mail-in ballots for years now. Successfully, it's very popular with Utah voters, most Utah voters. So both Congress and the Supreme Court are talking about mail-in balloting, but this morning, President Trump, who has repeatedly criticized the use of mail-in ballots, just voted by mail.
Geez, President Trump being hypocritical? That's a new one.
So just a couple of weeks ago, on March 11th, this is what he said, talking about the Save America Act to a Cincinnati news station.
Is we want voter ID, very important. You have to have identification and you have to have proof of citizenship. We don't want mail-in ballots. We don't want to have ballots coming from all different corners of the world. We want to have it accurate, and you can't do that with mail-in ballots. Actually, Jimmy Carter headed a commission years ago. He said mail-in ballots no good. We're the only country in the world that's doing mail-in ballots. And that would exclude, though, our military or people that are ill, people that are away. So we're generous in that way, but people don't want mail-in ballots because you have crooked elections. It guarantees a crooked election.
That's factually inaccurate.
Correct.
There's multiple countries that use mail-in
Over
voting.
30, yeah.
So it's just one of the things where you just say, okay, like, why this huge push to say we can't vote by mail when there's no reliable data that says that there's, like, evidence of widespread fraud? There's not really any fraud.
Correct. So why? The answer is voter suppression, because there's a great deal of data that shows that the kinds of things that this act would do, the Save America Act,
right,
it would require people to have passports in order to register, and many people don't have these passports. And Speaker Johnson was caught on a hot mic saying that it would suppress voters by about 18%, which is exactly what they want.
He thought it would really decrease, the turnout. And we saw that in Utah, right? So when we went from opt-in to vote by mail to everybody is opted in to vote by mail, our voter turnout increased significantly. And one of the things that allowed is for people who maybe are senior citizens who have a hard time getting out. It allowed for people in rural communities to be able to vote more easily, more readily. It allowed for moms with young kids who may be really busy, can't go stand in line for 4 hours. It's just it's a really interesting thing, and that's still unfolding in D.C. They're still doing the talking filibuster while they're also doing things like confirming a new DHS secretary. So that's an interesting thing too, right? Because I understood you weren't really supposed to be able to do Senate business, but they are doing it anyway. But it's really something where in Utah, we have not really seen an issue. And I know that there have been multiple stories about people who were fraudulently submitting ballots. And talking with county clerks across the state and looking at our own numbers, the most common situation, and they're very, very rare, is a parent who is voting for a missionary child who's out of the country.
Yeah. And we went through that when my sons were serving missions and tried to figure out how to handle that. But it's a solution in search of a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with that. And many Americans think that it is a solution in search of a problem, that we don't need it, right? That it's an issue. I think the question that people have is this really a problem? Do we have a lot of non-citizens voting in the United States? The answer is no, we don't. In Utah specifically, we know that the elections office did a really deep dive into the data. They looked at 2.1 million voter registrations. And do you know how many they found that was registered to somebody who was not a citizen?
One?
Yeah, they found one. And that person had never voted. And so I wonder if maybe that person was like at some location and they're like, here, sign up. And they're like, oh, okay, I guess I'll register to vote. But when we say we're going to change the rules midstream, right? Because if it passes the way they want it, the way it's written right now, is it would be implemented before the 2026 midterm elections. So you're talking about in Utah, for example, our driver's license with the star on it, the real ID, doesn't qualify under this new national act. It does not, because it doesn't have the extra indicator that we proved that we were citizens, even though when we had to do this real ID, and that took 20 years to implement, if you remember, 20 years to implement. And now we're saying, hey, you need to do this in a matter of a couple of months. And you had to show that you were a citizen of the United States to show it. You had to show that you had a birth certificate or a passport to be able to get this real ID. But because it doesn't have that little extra marker, it doesn't actually qualify.
It's just nonsensical, and it's just raw, naked politics. I mean, he's doing this because his poll numbers are in the tank, and he wants to make sure that the Republicans aren't going to be blown out in the midterms, which they very likely are still going to be.
And it's one of the issues that happens really every time you have a trifecta. So a party that controls the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Well, even if they don't have the trifecta, almost every midterm after a new presidential election, it swings the other way. Right. People are like, okay, we took you at your campaign promises. Things didn't work out. And so now we're going to try the other team. That's pretty typical. And so we'll see how this all plays out. But the Supreme Court yesterday also weighed in, and this was on mail-in balloting, but it had to do with the postmark. They didn't really weigh in, I guess. They indicated the way they're leaning. So they heard arguments. They seem to be skeptical that states should be able to accept ballots after Election Day.
Yeah.
So Utah, until last year, we would do that. And what the law was is it had to be postmarked the day before Election Day, but then they gave you some time for the ballot to come in because, the post office. But yesterday, the Supreme Court's conservative majority appeared sympathetic to arguments by the Republican National Committee.
The Supreme Court's conservative majority appeared sympathetic to arguments by the Republican National Committee seeking to limit the counting of mail-in ballots that arrive after Election Day. The outcome could have sweeping consequences for midterm elections, potentially throwing the policies of 30 states that allow a grace period for mail-in ballots into uncertainty. A decision from the High Court is expected by the end of June. Peter Haralambous, ABC News.
So in Utah now, the law is it has to be in the county clerk's hand by 8 p.m. on Election Day. So by the time the polls close, your ballot needs to be in their hand. So if you've mailed it 3 days ahead of time, it may not count.
Really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So Utah has already gone to that standard.
We did, and that was with the last legislative session, so 2025, not this year's. So it was implemented in last year's municipal elections, and part of that was because there were some ballots that made this long, winding journey from southern Utah down into Arizona or Nevada, I can't remember, sorry, and then back up into Utah. And people are like, why did they go there? Well, it's easier to go south than it is to go all the way north to get a postmark. So in any case, that would impact multiple states, but Utah would not be one of them because we have already said the ballot has to be in the county clerk's hand by 8 p.m. on Election Day.
Well, if your strategy in order to be able to win elective office is to get fewer people to vote, there's something fundamentally wrong with that. There's something I think fundamentally immoral about that.
So there's really another interesting conversation. We only have about a minute left, but President Trump has said he has claimed credit for putting ICE agents in airports, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But he also said they're not coming out, and I'm not signing any other legislation until you pass this act. I'm not signing DHS funding for TSA agents. I'm not taking ICE agents out, and I'm not signing any other bills until you pass the Save America Act. So I don't know how much that's going to play. Right now, the votes aren't there, but maybe they will be there. It depends on how painful it becomes, I guess.
Well, the anagram taco, Trump always chickens out. The idea that he's going to die on this hill is just, as soon as his poll numbers go south, I think you're going to see a change.
Well, I think they are kind of south in this particular issue, but we'll keep an eye on that. Also, we're going to pivot to spring break. So it is very definitely spring weather out there right now, and it's spring break season for young adults. But let's be honest, staying safe has to be part of the conversation. You've probably seen those videos of young adults kind of going crazy on spring break. Well, we're going to have some tips on how to stay safe when we come back.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. There are conflicting messages about whether the U.S. and Iran are engaged in talks to end the war. President Trump insists that there are, but Iran says no talks are being held and that claiming that there are talks is an attempt to manipulate oil markets. More from ABC's Rachel Scott.
The president is facing increasing pressure to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Right now, the average price of gas nationwide is about $3.98 a gallon, but experts say that will likely rise to $4 a gallon in the next 24 hours.
Here in Utah, it is already at $4.02 a gallon. In less than a month, gas prices in Utah have gone up more than $1. Anytime that happens, people start to wonder about the gas they're buying. Milan Koford runs Utah's Weights and Measures fuel program. He tells KSL TV's Matt Gephardt, when people think they've gotten bad gas, he goes and checks it out.
Probably about 99.5 of the times it is a good fuel.
But Koford says there is no such thing as perfectly pure gas.
I've never seen zero. There's always going to be some moisture trace in fuel.
Koford says much of the time trace amounts of water seep in through hoses or other things, but it's not added intentionally. We're getting a look at what the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints temples will look like in Austria and Mexico. The temple plan for Austria will be the first in that country and is set to be in the capital city of Vienna. It'll be about 15,000 square feet and will serve the country's nearly 4,700 Latter-day Saints. The Culiacan, Mexico temple is one of the 27 announced for the country. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 157 points to 46,365. Coming up, it's warm today. It's going to be even hotter tomorrow, maybe even record-breaking. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 9:31.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
It's spring. You get outside and it's obvious your house needs painting. Make an appointment with CertaPro Painters. They'll give you a free estimate quickly and at the right price. And they make the entire process easy with reliable updates and communication. They know how important your home is to you. True professionals, they're committed to quality and exceptional service at the right price. Each CertaPro Painters business is independently owned and operated, so schedule your free estimate online at CertaPro.com. That's Certa with a C.
If you're ready to sell your home, check your home's current value, buy a home, or need a home services professional in the Salt Lake City area, you can find all that and more on the free Omada Real Estate app. The real estate experts at the Stern team, powered by Omada Real Estate, have over 1,700 five-star reviews and have helped thousands of families turn their real estate dreams into a reality. With their proven marketing strategies, the Stern team, powered by Omada Real Estate, can get your home sold stress-free and for the most money possible. Go to sternteam.com or Google the Stern Team.
You may not think about Great Salt Lake, but it's affecting your life every day. It brings lake effect snow and epic powder days. It supports thousands of jobs that keep Utah thriving. It provides a haven for millions of birds. And it keeps our air cleaner and our summers cooler. It also could affect your home's value, your kids' asthma, your morning run, your powder days, your future. Without a healthy lake, we face toxic dust storms full of mercury and arsenic, along with higher health costs, fewer jobs, and lower home values. This isn't just an environmental issue, it's personal. The lake affects you. Now, it's your turn to affect the lake, because our lives depend on our lake. Act now at growgsl.org.
Get 5 quarts of Valvoline Full Synthetic Motor Oil and a MicroGuard Select Oil Filter for just $36.99. Limit supply.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
I move mountains for a living. Literally. That means I don't carry hand lotion, and when it comes to serious heartburn, I don't mess around with anything but Rolaids. Rolaids' dual-active formula has calcium carbonate and magnesium hydroxide that relieves heartburn fast. Yeah, you heard right. 2 actives for that powerful relief. And the best part? The roll fits right here in my pocket, so I can get back to moving mountains.
Rolade spells powerful relief. Reach label. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Go from daydreamer to industry leader with Amazon Business. From office supplies to IT essentials, Amazon Business provides tools that help you save costs and make insight-based decisions. Learn how to bring your visions to life at AmazonBusiness.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Let's go to the traffic center. Cormac Bone.
Looks like we're once again crash-free all across the Wasatch Front. Its heaviest delays caused by construction. Eastbound Pioneer Crossing in Lehigh. Heavy and slow starting just after 500 West and reaching to I-15. We do still have northbound I-15 delays working their way out from the morning drive. It's slow after the point of the mountain approaching Bangerter Highway. And again from 7200 South Midvale. Spotty slowdowns on northbound I-15 up to about the I-80-201 interchange. Celebrate Easter at Bravenel Hall March 30th. Join Grammy-nominated Jenny Oaks Baker and experience The Redeemer, a breathtaking musical journey honoring Jesus Christ. Save 15% with code RISEN15 at jennyoaksbaker.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather today, scattered clouds, sunny though mostly with highs in the upper 70s. Tomorrow even warmer, highs in the low 80s. Expect lots of sun with these high temps. Right now, though, a few scattered clouds, as I mentioned, and 57 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's Holly Richardson and Jim Bennett today. Greg has the day off. Jim, my kids have never really done the spring break thing as college students.
Really?
Yeah, they either stayed where they were. Most of them lived at home to go to college. They either stayed where they were because they were working, or they came home, right, and just hung out and shopped at mom's pantry before they went back to college. So that's very common with my kids. So they literally bring grocery bags and go through my pantry. So still, spring break, it has kind of a connotation of wild parties and maybe not being very smart or safe. And so it's a conversation. I wonder if your kids ever took off on spring break.
Well, this year is actually the first time that that has notably happened in the Bennett household. I've got a son up at the University of Utah, and he said, "Can I borrow the car and go to San Diego with some friends?"
Okay.
And we said yes, and everything went well, and he's back home safe, and everything's fine. My other kids all went to BYU, where they don't really have a spring break.
I know, they have like a day.
They have like a day. So this is kind of the first time that somebody in our family's been able to do that.
Yeah. Well, earlier today on the Utah Morning News, Rich Frankel, who's a former special agent in charge in FBI in New York, talked about what parents need to be talking to their kids about.
They just need to know that they should talk to their kids and make sure that their kids understand that when they're away, whether it's overseas or here in the United States, that, listen, they are kind of tourists, and they are they stand out to a degree, and that means that they can be targeted. So they just need to be more careful when they're out at these bars. They need to go with friends. They have to have, quote unquote, running buddies, where he can go out to a bar, hang out. And if somebody gets in trouble, that you have friends that you can trust that can get you back to your hotel, or in worst case scenario, get you to a hospital or to a doctor. But when you're out, also just make sure of yourself that you're not taking drinks from people you don't know, that you're not putting drinks on a bar where somebody could slip something into it. If you're doing drugs, which I don't, advise, but if you're doing drugs, where are these drugs coming from? It's the same thing. These drugs could have in them different chemicals that either you're not used to or that are dangerous, such as fentanyl. So you have to be very careful, basically, of what you're doing when you're on these trips and what you're ingesting when you're out with your friends at a bar or nightclub.
I think it's interesting, and I don't drink alcohol. I haven't ever even been to a bar, but the idea, right, that somebody could slip something into your drink and you wouldn't know, certainly concerning, and it's always been a concern for me. I saw one time I think it was a young woman who, I could be wrong though, but invented a nail polish that would change color if they put a certain drug in your drink. So you could stir your drink with your finger and you could tell if they had drugged it.
Well, that would be helpful. I had never heard about anything like that, but I went. My undergrad was at the University of Southern California, and a lot of people would drive across the Mexican border for spring break, and that's when they could get into trouble. I mean, what that news report was talking about, the idea when you're outside of the country, you are a guest somewhere else, and a lot of young people don't realize the implications of that.
Yeah, interesting. There was just a case with a young man on spring break, and where was he? Scotland? They found him dead, unfortunately, right? So they think that it was accidental, but they're not sure. It's one of those things, right? And it's really funny. So I've traveled a lot, and I think sometimes Americans especially, we think that we don't stand out. We so clearly do.
We absolutely do.
So clearly do. So anyway, so this special agent, former special agent in charge, Rich Frankel, had some more safety tips to be aware of when kids are out with their friends.
Not saying, don't go out, not saying don't have fun with your friends, but when you're at a bar, instead of getting a mixed drink from the bar, maybe a beer in a long neck bottle, something that you can hold, that you can cover. If you put your drink down, whether it is a beer or any other type of mixed drink, or even a Coca-Cola, once you put that down, it goes out of sight. You never get that again. Walk away from it. Go get another drink. Pay the extra $8, $12, $15, whatever. Just as soon as that beer where that drink is out of your hand, it's a dead item. Don't go near it again. And then if you do want to leave early or you're not feeling great, grab one of your friends and say, hey, listen, you got to get me back to the hotel. You got to get me somewhere where it's safe just because I'm not feeling great. Don't walk out on your own because you want to let your friends continue to have a good time and you're not feeling fantastic. Listen, it could just be a cold or, you're sick, or it could be something much worse, and you want to make sure that you have somebody with you in case you need assistance getting somewhere.
I think that's always good advice anyway, is the no solo traveling. So I misspoke. The young man that passed away was in Spain and not in Scotland. However, I wanted to say this. When my oldest, so this has been 20 years because he's almost 39. When he was 19, he did a solo trip around. It was basically England, Scotland, Wales, a little bit of Ireland. And this was, again, 20 years ago, I made him call home every day. You have to call me and make sure, that you're still alive. But when I think about my daughters and I talk to them, I'm like, absolutely not should you travel alone. Absolutely not. Right. And I'm really paranoid, even though they're in their 20s and some of them in their 30s. I'm like, you should not be traveling alone. And I think there's a number of reasons, right? Whether you drink or not drink, but even if you get sick, right?
Yeah.
That kind of advice.
A lot of what they're talking about here, there's safety in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a large group of people there, the idea that somebody is going to sneak in and put something in your drink or anything else, it's going to be a whole lot harder to do that if there's a crowd that can be able to see it.
Yeah, and who can say, hey, I'm not feeling well, or can say to you, hey, are you okay? Because you don't look like you're feeling very well. Let me get you back to someplace safe. Yeah. Good advice for people going on spring break. So I've been really, really sick when I've traveled before. I got Giardia as a primary infection in Ethiopia once, and it was, I thought I was going to die. It was so painful and so bad, and no reliable restroom facilities. It was really not a good experience.
The only time I can recall getting sick on a major trip was with the Tabernacle Choir. When I went to Mexico City.
Oh.
And pretty much the entire choir got sick as a result of that. But again, safety in numbers. One of the tuba player from the orchestra got sick.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to replace him, and they called a guy who was on vacation in Argentina, and they flew him from a mountain in Argentina to Mexico City the next day.
Wow, that is really incredible. All right, so be safe out there and have fun. A new study from scholars at Harvard and BYU looks at the role of faith in success in public education. It was really interesting to see this and to read about their findings. We're going to talk about that when we come back after this break.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you have a drain that's clogged or backed up, after you've tried the plungers and products, the next step usually involves some kind of drain snake or cabling equipment. You see, sometimes the blockage is far enough down the line that you need special equipment that most homeowners just don't have. That's where the Drains Department at Any Hour Services can help. A drain snake can clear most blockages and get the water flowing again, and clearing blocked drains is what our Drains Department does day in and day out. So if you're a homeowner with a drain line that's clogged or backed up and you'd like one of our drain technicians to come and snake the line for you, it's only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL offers the best daily newsletter in the state. It's the 3 things you need to know. Every weekday, we deliver quality and relevant content to your inbox. No ads, no spam, just the 3 things you need to know to be informed about the world around you. Subscribe today. Visit KSLNewsRadio.com or text the word inbox to 57500. That's inbox to 57500.
Bad driving habits are hard to break, but good driving habits are easy to form, especially when they can lead to a discount on your auto insurance. With Farm Bureau Financial Services, the safer you drive, the more you save. Drivers like you are saving an average of $321 per vehicle. So buckle up, learn more, and find an agent at fbfs.com/save. Individual savings results may vary. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company.
You're the gatekeeper of green, the master of mowing, the wizard of watering schedules. When it comes to your lawn, power moves are the only moves you make. That's why you use IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program, with nutrients blended for greener, healthier turf in our local soil. IFA's 4+ Lawn Care program. It's the ultimate lawn owner power move.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new, it's inherited. A ring from a grandmother, a necklace tucked away in a drawer, pieces full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jeweler specializes in reimagining family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Duke's on-site jewelers and designers work with you one-on-one to honor the original story while creating something fresh, modern, and uniquely yours. From resetting diamonds into new engagement rings to transforming multiple heirloom pieces into one stunning design, every project is crafted with care, precision, and intention. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com. Duke's Jewelers, where old stories become new treasures. dukesjewelers.com.
Jackson Hewitt will do your taxes for $149 or less, no matter how complicated. So if you're a delivery driver, /handyman, /wedding DJ, you pay only $149 or less. We're talking to you, waitress.
Check, please.
/pet sitter, /influencer. Just $149 or less. Want your refund to work as hard as you? Hurry. Don't wait. File with Jackson Hewitt today. Limited time offer for new clients on federal returns. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com/149.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with the Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com and get ready for the workday.
As the #1 small business lender, Zions Bank helps entrepreneurs reach and exceed their goals. Visit your local branch or zionsbank.com/SBA. Equal housing lender.
Are you thinking about buying medicine online? A search for online pharmacies yields more than 20 million results. But which ones can you trust? Medicines bought from unlicensed online pharmacies can be dangerous. You may get a fake drug, your condition may get worse, or you may experience a bad reaction. Don't put your health at risk. To learn how to find an online pharmacy that's safe and legal, visit fda.gov/BeSafeRx. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
So this story is a really interesting one, and this is a joint report that came out from Harvard and BYU, and they looked at a problem within the education system. So there's a lot of gaps in learning opportunities by race and ethnicity, surprisingly. Not. But according to the Deseret News, by the turn of the 20th century, only 1 in 3 children of Black families were enrolled in school compared to 4 in 5 of white children. And we're of a certain age. I'm a little older than you, but I actually lived in Virginia when they desegregated my elementary school.
Oh, wow.
So they had laws in the mid 60s, but this was the really early 70s, and they hadn't done it until they finally had, they were forced to desegregate. And so we started to have children who were bused into our school. Interesting, right? To feel like I lived through that even. So reforms and other interventions since then have made limited progress. And one of the things that both Harvard and BYU scholars wanted to find out is, was there a lever? Is there something that can really be done to close these gaps?
Yeah, well, it's surprising. So according to the report, religion is a key resource to close these gaps. This was published by the BYU Wheatley Institute and the Leadership Initiative for Faith and Education at Harvard. It says religious participation of students is associated with more academic learning in school, higher levels of formal schooling, and more aspirations for higher education.
Yeah. So one of the things that they found is that these positive effects can be explained by moral values, by study skills, which is interesting, right? That can somehow be correlated with religiosity, and social networks that students from all backgrounds can gain from by participating in a religious faith. One of the things I think listeners should also know is that this wasn't particular to one faith.
Right.
Right. It was looking broadly at, are you a member of a faith community? How does that impact your schooling and your education?
Well, I grew up in Southern California in a primarily Jewish neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my friends would go to Hebrew school after they went to school, and they were preparing for their bar mitzvahs. I went to a whole bunch of all my friends' bar mitzvahs, and I was really disappointed that I didn't get to have one. But I think that really tracks in terms of their engagement with their faith community and the kinds of sort of commitment and demand that comes from that engagement. I can see very clearly that there would be a correlation between the two.
So one of the issues that they were really clear in spelling out is, what about the separation of church and state at school, right? So as we understand, the separation of church and state means not that you're not religious, it means that there's no state religion, right? There's no religion required by the U.S. Constitution. So in their study, they said they looked primarily at religious organizations. Well, they said the partnerships between religious organizations and government must have a secular civic purpose, have a primary effect that neither advances nor inhibits religion, and it doesn't foster excessive entanglement between government and religion. So just speaking of that, for example, there was a recent, very, very recent court case that said in Oklahoma, they had passed a law that said you have to have the 10 Commandments displayed in all public school classrooms. Well, a court reversed that and said, no, that is an unnecessary entangling, really, of religion and the state. So what they're looking at is, how does this religious life impact both students and teachers?
Well, and it's certainly something that's worth looking at, and I think the concern to make sure that you're not sort of overemphasizing one faith over another, and I think that's a big concern for a lot of people, particularly in Utah, where you have such a large Latter-day Saint community.
So, and again, it can be anywhere, right? So you can live in a place where you have a large Jewish community, or a large Catholic community, or a large LDS community, a large Muslim community, whatever it is. So one of the things that they found too is that it bleeds over into the teachers, right? So why do teachers want to, how does their religiosity impact their teaching? And for some of them, what they found in this study was that they felt like teaching was a calling. Again,
that's
irrespective of denomination, right? But they felt like this moral obligation and a desire to go and teach because they felt inspired to do so.
I think that makes a lot of sense, and in growing up in a community where most of the people were different religion, I really kind of enjoyed that. I mean, one of the perks of it is that our school district, we got all of the Jewish holidays off.
Oh yeah,
and so we would always go to Disneyland on Yom Kippur in January because nobody else was there.
Yeah.
So that's one of the perks. I don't know that applies to this study particularly, but
well, it was interesting because I spent some time growing up in France, and it's a predominantly Catholic country, although I would say most of them are not practicing. But we also would have specific holidays off. Good Friday, we're coming close to Easter, but they didn't celebrate Halloween when I lived there. But they definitely did All Saints Day, which is the day after. So Halloween was to scare the ghosts away so that you could honor the saints on All Saints Day. But we got that day off every year, right? We had the day off for people to go and worship.
Well, there's tremendous value in gaining respect for a faith tradition that is not your own.
Yeah.
Just the respect for faith, the understanding of faith, and how it can sort of enrich a person's life, regardless of whether it's a faith that you believe in or not. I think that's significant, and that kind of commitment to a faith, I think that there's a great deal of crossover between that kind of commitment to education and to learning. It all sort of, I think, comes together.
So one of the things that this article lists are positive steps that can be taken to help both learners and their teachers. So these are the evidence-based recommendations, some of them that they recommend. Establishing regular communication about needs and resources between faith communities and public school systems. Schools and religious institutions distributing information about existing partnerships between public schools and faith organizations. Developing deliberate educational programming within churches. So, for example, churches, mosques, spiritual communities, synagogues, temples, etc., based on the student learning needs within their communities. And that's a really interesting conversation. And I'm just wondering, so for example, here in Utah, we know that we have 50% of our kids can't read at grade level at third grade. And there's a huge push from the Utah legislature to say, look, we want to get all these kids reading by third grade. What if there were also a component within religious communities saying, look, there's a real need here. What can we do as a religious community to really help encourage this literacy in our third graders, or heading up? It's really from kindergarten through third grade.
No, I think that's a great, that makes an awful lot of sense. I mean, in my own experience, I mean, we did in Southern California early morning seminary.
Yeah.
Here in Utah, they have release time seminary, and that would be ridiculous in a place where I was growing up. But there really was sort of a focus on sort of coordinating what we were doing in seminary with the realities of what we were doing in school.
Mm-hmm.
That there was very much a recognition that the two were linked.
Yeah.
That both mattered.
Yeah. And I think there's ongoing research between the benefits of having religious beliefs and practices. There's some really recent research. We've talked about religious nones, meaning NONES, people who say they're not part of any religious organization. Over the last few years, that has been growing until last year. And then that category started dropping as young adults and adults even started looking for another faith tradition to go back to. So what we're seeing is this ongoing research, and I love that this collaboration is between BYU, obviously known as a faith-based institution, but with Harvard as well, right? And saying, look, we're not saying you have to be part of a particular religion, but what we're seeing is some real benefits with kids and education, and whether they're going to school, if they're going on to higher education, those types of things.
Well, the Harvard partnership, I think, really is very compelling because there's I think a tendency to be very insular in your faith tradition, and I think faith is much more productive when it engages with the wider world. And the fact that we're able to engage with Harvard and with these what some people would characterize as something that's just too secular and they don't want anything to do with it, I think there's value in making sure that the secular and the sacred are able to engage respectfully.
Yeah, it's a good conversation. I hope we can come back to it with the one of the authors of the study, and I think we're working on that right now. So when we come back, we're kind of back and forth, but I saw this headline this morning: ICE agents in airports are a test for the 2026 elections. What does that mean? We're going to talk about that when we come back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour, Utah Senators Mike Lee and John Curtis were among those who voted to confirm Markwayne Mullin as the new Department of Homeland Security Secretary. KSL News Radio's Cameron Elliott has the details.
Lee and Curtis both issued their congratulations to the Oklahoma senator over X shortly after he was confirmed to replace Kristi Noem as DHS Secretary. Curtis says he was, quote, proud to support his nomination and look forward to his leadership in enforcing our laws with compassion, responding to disasters, and keeping the American people safe.
Mike Lee also sent his congratulations to Mullin, whom he called his friend and colleague. Our top national story this hour from ABC News, a Lyme disease vaccine is in the works.
If, in fact, it's approved, it is a 4-dose series. So you get 3 shots in the first year, a booster in the second year. And essentially the way that it works is it targets a protein on the surface of the bacteria that causes Lyme disease. So you generate antibodies. If a tick bites you, those antibodies get into the tick and essentially target or attach to the bacteria, preventing the bacteria from then getting into you.
ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Tara Narula says the vaccine is being made by Pfizer, and they are now submitting their findings to regulators. Your money at this moment, the Dow up slightly, 43 points to 46,252. Coming up, we've got 2 days of record heat. KSL weather's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother. A necklace tucked away in a drawer. Pieces full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jeweler specializes in reimagining family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Duke's on-site jewelers and designers work with you one-on-one to honor the original story while creating something fresh, modern, and uniquely yours. From resetting diamonds into new engagement rings to transforming multiple heirloom pieces into one stunning design, every project is crafted with care, precision, and intention. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com. Duke's Jewelers, where old stories become new treasures. dukesjewelers.com.
It was opening night at Hale Center Theater for The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Victor Hugo's classic tale. I was with my son, Ian, and it was nothing short of spectacular. The staging, the costuming, the music, it's simply breathtaking. And, of course, the actors and the voices. You have to see The Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's on the main stage right now at Hale Center Theater. So many of the scenes are never to be forgotten. For example, when Frollo is just struggling with his passion for Esmeralda and his soul, the flames and the tension on the stage is unbelievable. And to see the Hunchback up in the tower with the bells, don't miss Hunchback of Notre Dame. It's underway right now at Hale Center Theater. And continuing, Peter Pan Goes Wrong. That's on the Jewel Box stage and Hallmarked on the Beehive stage. Get your tickets now. hct.org. Don't miss the Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-979-3535. That's 800-979-3535. 800-979-3535.
Every 2 minutes, an American is sexually assaulted. The majority of victims know their attacker. It could be your friend, your neighbor, or someone you met at a party. If you said no, it's rape, and it's a crime. This is Christina Ricci with RAINN. Call the National Sexual Assault Hotline today at 1-800-656-HOPE or visit rainn.org. That's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAINN and this station.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU, love where you bank. Let's go back to the traffic center in Cormac Bone.
Roadways really calming down for the midday drive. There's no delays or accidents on I-15, both directions from Brigham City to Santaquin. But we do still have those construction delays. Eastbound Pioneer Crossing, heavy and slow, starting at 7800 West and really reaching all the way over to I-15. And we also have some light and scattered delays both directions on the 201 freeway through Magna. No matter the weather, your feet can feel fantastic. Find the Good Feet location nearest you at goodfeet.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should get up to 79 today, which would set a daily record. Then 83 tomorrow, another daily record. It cools off on Thursday and Friday. The highs will be in the upper 60s. Right now it's 61 degrees and cloudy a little bit in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's Holly Richardson and Jim Bennett. And earlier in the show, we already talked about the 2026 elections and how they might be impacted both by Supreme Court rulings and a Save America Act, if it passes or doesn't pass. Well, Steve Bannon, he's a former White House strategist and a podcaster, said
and prisoner. Spent 4 months in federal prison for defying Congress.
He did, actually. Yeah. Well, he said that immigration and customs enforcement officers assisting with airport operations is a test run for the 2026 midterms. So, first of all, you have to say, what? What are we doing with the 2026 elections? Well, he had a conversation with a lawyer, Mike Davis, on his War Room podcast. Here's a little bit of what he said.
We can use what's happening with these ICE helping out at the airports. We can use this as a test run, as a test case to really perfect ICE's involvement in the 2026 midterm election, sir?
Yeah, I think we should have ICE agents at the polling places because if you're an illegal alien, you can't vote, right? It's against the law. It's a federal crime for you to vote in federal elections. And so if you're an American citizen, you should be happy that ICE is there because you're not going to have illegal aliens canceling out your vote.
Pick them out of line starting today, and maybe the lines get shorter.
So, an interesting, is that suppressing the vote to have ICE agents at your polling locations?
How is it anything else? How could it not be? Because we know that illegal immigrants don't vote. I mean, we have hard data that shows that's not possible. People don't recognize just how difficult it is to engage in voter fraud on a wide scale. Because even if you register fraudulent names, you have to get human bodies to show up at the poll, and they have to know what names have been fraudulently registered. That is not something that you can scale. That's not something that works. And the idea that you're going to get legions of illegal immigrants to be able to go to the polls and cast all of these votes, it would be easier to fake the moon landing than it would be.
Well, there are some people who think that is fake. So,
well, there you go.
So one of the issues I think that maybe listeners didn't understand when we were talking earlier about the Save America Act is we already have in place ways to do voter ID. So when we're talking about vote by mail, especially in Utah, we have a way. In fact, the law requires that we put the last 4 digits of our social security number. We already showed proof of citizenship or whatever it was that required to register to vote. So if we have our real ID, we showed citizenship to get that. We use that as the way to register to vote. We've done that process. People aren't saying don't ever show anything. What we're saying is if you show up at the polls and now you have to prove not with your real ID, but with a passport or a birth certificate or a paper trail that you changed your name, then that is a lot more difficult than what is currently the law. But the law does require that we show that we are who we say we are. So if I vote by mail, I have to include on the outside of my ballot, not the inside, the outside, the last 4 of my social security, and a signature that matches the signature that I used when I signed up to register to vote. If I go to the polls in person, then I pull out my driver's license or my social security number, or my hunting license, or whatever it is that now we accept.
And we accept hunting licenses?
I think that bill got killed.
Oh, okay.
But I think we do accept concealed carry permits. Anyway, that I have to show that at the polls. So if you're voting by mail, ICE agents at the polls are not really going to make any difference at all, right?
Well, in Utah, that's correct, sure.
But if you're showing up in person and you've got this ID, but you've got ICE agents outside, what's really interesting to me is the conversation about how close can they get and why do you have federal agents stationed at your polling locations? Well, here's a little more of what Steve Bannon said about ICE being involved in elections.
The ICE agents at the airports to help out. And remember, they said they're not going to work the x-rays. It's too complicated. They're not trained for it, but they're trained to, wait for it, check IDs. That's why it's perfect training for the fall of 2026. This is why it's such a brilliant, this is another 5D chess move for President Trump. Let's get ICE into the airports to help out to the lines. They can't work the machines. You know what to do? Just walk them down. Hey, we're a speed thing too. Can we check your IDs? That's what's going to happen in the fall of 26 because, folks, we're tired of having elections stolen. So ICE is going to be there in the fall of 26, just like they're in the airports today.
Again, there's not information that elections have been stolen.
You go to the 2020 election, and the Trump administration filed 60 different lawsuits, all of which failed, none of which demonstrated even a whiff of fraud in that election. And the narrative that we're stealing elections is absolutely false. But the data that shows that someone like ICE showing up, but talking about they're trained to handle IDs, the biggest problem we have with ICE is these are people that very often are not well trained, which is why we've had some terrible incidents where people have lost their lives.
Including U.S. citizens.
Including U.S. citizens. And so if you are a legal resident, a citizen of the United States, but you're Hispanic, you're somebody that ICE is going to look at and question just because of the way you look. All that ICE is doing in that circumstance is scaring people away from the polls. And clearly that's what they're trying to do. It's so disingenuous to pretend that they're trying in any way to safeguard the integrity of the election. They're trying to keep people who aren't going to vote for them from voting at all.
I do wonder with this statement that we're going to have ICE agents at the polls. First of all, Steve Bannon doesn't make the decisions, so I don't know if that actually will be a thing. But my guess is it's not going to be in red states. That if they're going to deploy ICE agents, it's going to be in blue states, right?
Because they don't want to discourage voting
in purple
red
states where it might make a difference. In red states, even if you, especially a far red state, I mean, predominantly red state like Utah, even if you have lower voter turnout, we still vote Republican.
Yeah.
Right? It's not going to really change the outcome of the election, I don't think. But if you're in a purple state and you're able to suppress the vote or keep a certain segment of the population from showing up, it could change the election. So it's really interesting that you've got people willing to say this is a test run and we're going to have them at the polls.
Well, they keep saying the quiet part out loud. You know, the idea that this is they are very much trying to alter elections in ways that aren't fraud the way they're describing it, but voter intimidation, I think, is just as destructive. It's certainly more destructive because it's real and fraud is not.
So this is, we only have a few seconds left. This is Markwayne Mullin just got confirmed as the DHS secretary. He was asked specifically during a March 18th confirmation hearing whether ICE agents would be at the polls. He said he wouldn't rule it out. However, during a February 25th FBI phone briefing, they said any suggestion that ICE is going to be present at polling places is simply disinformation. So we'll see what happens in 2026. But we're going to talk about conservative podcasters, because right now there's actually a war going on between conservative podcasters, and they're tearing each other to shreds. We're going to talk to somebody who has followed this closely to see whether this infighting is threatening the MAGA movement or the GOP at large, or if they're helping bring clarity to important issues. Stay with us.
This weekly tax tip is brought to you by the Utah Association of Certified Public Accountants. Here's CEO Susan Spears.
Here's what many people are getting wrong with their income taxes. Most of us fill out a W-4 once and never look at it again. In 2026, many taxpayers will see changes. There are new deductions for overtime and tip income, plus other changes. If your withholding doesn't reflect those changes, one of two things can happen. You either give the IRS an interest-free loan all year, or you get hit with a surprise tax bill in filing season. If new deductions lower your tax bill by $3,000, but your withholding never changes, that's about $250 a month coming out of your paycheck that you actually didn't owe. The UACPA suggests that now's the time for a W-4 checkup.
Get the most out of your income tax preparation when you hire a licensed CPA. Visit uacpa.org to find a CPA that's right for you. And check out new tax tip videos by following on social media at Talk to Your CPA.
What's up, Utah? This is Jimmer Fredette. You know, back in the day, Jimmer Mania was all about making big shots. Now it's time for Window Mania. Get $2,500 off when you buy 10 windows or more from Advanced Window Products. Call them today at 801-850-9100. If your old drafty windows are a turnover, costing you money every month, it's time for a game changer. These guys are the home team. They're a local, family-owned company that manufactures their windows right here in Salt Lake City. They're built by Utah for our crazy Utah climate. When you buy from Advanced Window Products, you're buying factory direct. No middleman. That's how you score a winning deal. Their windows are tough on defense, blocking out the heat and the cold, which saves you serious money on your energy bills. And here's the slam dunk. Their lifetime warranty, which even covers accidental glass breakage, that's peace of mind you can't get from the other guys. Get in on Window Mania and tell them Jimmer sent you. Call 801-850-9100 or advancedwindows.com.
High five! Up top! Dave's company just got the 5-year price lock guarantee from Comcast Business. Yeah! It's 5 years of gig speed internet, advanced security, and a great rate that won't change. All from the company with 99.9% network reliability. Heck yeah! He hasn't given this many high fives since Deborah brought in her famous banana bread. Yes! The Comcast Business 5-year price lock guarantee. Powering 5 years of savings, powering possibilities. And it's hurting, but I am not stopping.
Woo! For a limited time, now through March 29th, switch to Comcast Business to lock in your rate for 5 years and get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Or ask how to get started with 150 megabit internet and Security Edge for $59.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Don't wait. Call today. Restrictions apply. New customers only. 1-year contract required for guaranteed rate. Paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account required. 5-year pricing applies to monthly service charge excluding taxes and fees.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary. A peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to OGG.com to find a retailer near you. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Over the years, you've brought opioids into your home. They helped when you were in pain, and you held on to them just in case. But holding on to opioids puts your family at risk. Learn more at www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
Inside Sources.
So one of the interesting things that has changed, I guess, Jim, since we started being involved in politics, you and I, is the rise of podcasts.
Yeah.
Like, when we started, there wasn't even the internet.
There was the internet. We're not that old.
Okay, maybe not. Okay, that might be fair. I was a really early adopter of Facebook and Twitter, which is now called X. That was 2008. But there's really this competition now and there's always been competition for people's hearts and minds, right?
Yeah.
But the podcast movement has really taken off. And there are millions and millions of people who listen to a variety of podcasters. One of the things that's interesting is there have been some rifts that have occurred, I think, within the conservative podcaster movement. And I'm not as close a follower of those podcasters as our next guest, but I would say maybe the Charlie Kirk killing really started to show some differences there. We have with us on the line Jennifer Graham. She's a writer with the Deseret News. And thanks, Jennifer, for joining us. It's good to talk to you.
Thank you. It's great to be on.
I'm wondering if you could just kind of set up the landscape. So you have this really interesting and in-depth article in the Deseret News. It's titled, "Do Warring Podcasters Pose a Problem for the Political Right and for Each Other?" But can you just set up the landscape for us about what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure, I will. And I mean, you alluded to it just now about Charlie Kirk perhaps being the impetus for some of the warring that's going on. It actually goes back before then. I was surprised to learn when I started looking into this, because I too thought that this all happened because of Candace Owens and Erica Kirk and the controversy that's been there. But actually, a lot of this goes back to Israel and Gaza. So this has been going on for nearly a year. And what's significant about it is not just that these podcasters, all of whom occupy the upper echelon of the right wing or conservative, however you want to say it, podcast universe. But so it's not only that they're having political arguments, but they're having personal arguments as well. And it's to the point where if you follow any of these people or you come across their content on social media, you want to go take a shower afterwards. I mean, the conversation is so ugly, and the vitriol that they're hurling back and forth is so personal. Some words that I would not dare utter on the radio.
You wrote some of them in the article, at least. I'm looking.
Well, I did, but those were the calm ones.
Those are the calm ones.
Those are the calm ones. I mean, so apparently, emotionally unhinged, lewd, and petulant wreck, Mark Levin said about Megyn Kelly. Your moral preening, priggish lectures, and holier-than-thou judgments are the reason you are losing fans, and more than that, friends at a record rate. That's Megyn Kelly to Ben Shapiro. And the next one had a word that I thought maybe I shouldn't read on air. But how big a deal is this? Is this a threat to the MAGA movement at large or to the entire GOP?
Well, that was the question I wanted to get after, because we're just now getting to the point where Democrats are really expressing glee over this. I mean, they are cheering this on. I wouldn't be surprised if some of them aren't commenting, trying to egg some of this on, because they think that it's going to hurt the conservative movement and MAGA in particular in the midterms and beyond, because you've got these people who are said to wield such power. I mean, you think about the 2024 election and how much credit was given to Joe Rogan for bringing young men to the polls to vote for Donald Trump. And so that's what I wanted to get at, was whether or not any of this would would have some sort of nuclear fallout for the Republican Party. And the reactions that I got, I spoke to political strategists, and I quoted a number of people who specialize in podcasts. And it was really interesting to me, their takes on all of this, because on one hand, they say these people do have outsized influence in media because podcasting has just grown by leaps and bounds over the past decade, to where about a third of Americans now listen to at least one podcast a week. And a good many of them, upwards of 80%, are registered voters. So this is an audience that has power at the polls. But on the other hand, they also are fragmented, because podcasting is not all political podcasting. I was writing about political podcasters in particular, but that's just one fraction of the podcast audience. And I was surprised by the analyst who told me that even Joe Rogan, who's considered the granddaddy of all podcasters, he's said to have the most power. But even Joe Rogan, only about a third of people who listen to podcasts listen to Joe Rogan. I'm sorry, 1/4, not 1/3. It's a third of Americans listen to podcasts, and only about a quarter of them listen to Joe Rogan. So even a single podcaster, no matter how big a name he is, might not have that much influence.
So, Jennifer, speaking of Joe Rogan, he had Trump on during the last campaign, and Kamala Harris didn't go on. So can you talk about maybe the impact that had on the election?
There was a lot of impact from that, simply because young men fared so heavily in the turnout. There was, I don't have the numbers at the ready, but a lot more young men in America voted for Trump in 2024 than they did in 2020 and even in 2016. And a lot of people credit that to Joe Rogan. It might not be because of that Joe Rogan podcast. They may not have listened to that podcast, but that podcast itself got so much publicity. It was headlines all across the United States and every other medium besides podcasting. And so that's one reason one of the analysts that I spoke to said that podcasters punch above their weight culturally, because podcasts, they have reach even among people who aren't listening to podcasts, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And another reason is that because there is, among podcast listeners, there is very high trust in the content they're hearing. Surveys of podcast listeners have shown that they trust information they get from podcasts more than any other medium, which is kind of concerned for somebody like me who's been in the newspaper business all of my life.
Well, so can you turn prognosticator here for me a little bit? CNN did a poll of self-identified MAGA voters who said that 100% of self-identified MAGA voters still support Donald Trump. To me, that was a poll saying 100% of the people who support Donald Trump support Donald Trump. But looking at this, can Democrats use this as some kind of leverage, or where else are these people going to go? I mean, they may be kind of upset with each other, but none of them are going to vote for Democrats, are they?
Well, that's the case, but some of them may not show up at the polls. And that's what Democrats are hoping for, and that's what Republicans are fearing. And that is one of the things that a lot of political strategists are watching in this podcaster war, which has pivoted. It's gone from a war over Gaza and Israel to a war over Turning Point USA and Charlie Kirk's death and Candace Owens, to now they're warring over the action in Israel. And as one person said that I quoted in the article, this is a much more serious fissure or fracture within the podcast world, because it's serious foreign policy we're talking about here. It's not, we're not bickering about, what Candace Owens, what tales she is spinning on any given day. So, there is concern that people are taking sides. You've seen this. President Trump came out a week or so ago with a social media post lauding Mark Levin, who is at the center of these nasty wars going on social media. And so the president has taken a side in the podcasting wars, and conservatives are seeing themselves on one side or the other. They're either on the side of Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson when it comes to the war, or they're on the side of everybody else. And that's a broad generalization. Obviously, there are so many of these little wars that are going on, not only between the podcasters that I mentioned, but between others. My primary concern is not about who's going to turn out at the votes, because I don't have a dog in that, so to speak. But the discourse has gotten so ugly and so personal, and as I said before, it's stuff you certainly don't want to read aloud to your kids.
Right, exactly. Thanks so much. That was Jennifer Graham with the Deseret News on warring conservative podcasters. And, we're going to have an opportunity to talk a little bit more about this discourse being so coarse, actually. But before we get there, we're going to talk about Salt Lake County alone. There are tens of thousands of Gen Xers who are skipping healthcare because they can't afford it. That's a wow. We're going to talk about that when we come back.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Andy Farnsworth. KSL's top story this hour. A driver is now in jail after police say he ran after causing a crash that briefly shut down Bangerter Highway.
Police say they tried pulling over the black Honda Civic just moments before it crashed into another car, which forced the closure of Bangerter at 3500 South just before noon yesterday. West Valley City Police accused the driver of running 2 red lights, speeding, failing to stop for a patrol car with its lights and sirens on, and then running from police on foot after the crash. Arrest documents obtained by KSL show 23-year-old Nicholas Caden Brundle was booked into jail on suspicion of several offenses, and this isn't the first time. Court records show Brundle has previously been charged with DUI and failing to stop for police. He was also convicted for failing to stop for law enforcement and sentenced to probation in 2024. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Republicans in Congress say they're working on a plan to end the partial government shutdown.
The conversation now taking place among Republicans has them talking about funding every component of DHS except for ICE. After that, the GOP-led Congress could move to a reconciliation package, which Democrats in the Senate couldn't block by themselves, that would fund ICE and possibly add in the voter ID and citizenship requirements that President Trump has insisted on. Just days ago, the president rejected this idea, but after a White House huddle last night, Republicans came out of it hopeful that they'd be able to move forward with the plan.
TSA agents have been working at the nation's airports without pay for over a month now. Your money at this moment, the Dow up 135 points today to 46,343. Coming up, we've got more record-setting heat, and we'll get a look at your commute. KSL weather and traffic is next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Andy, I like that shirt. Is that a new shirt?
It is. It's from Ann Collar, and it's really rare to find a shirt that looks good and is super comfortable. And this is a fabric unlike anything I've ever felt.
I got one for my husband and my sons, and watching my 19-year-old put on the Ann Collar shirt and sort of check himself out in the mirror, I thought, wow, he's really digging that. And I can understand why, because it's not just comfortable, it's stain repellent, which I needed.
Oh, my goodness,
that
is something.
He attracts spaghetti sauce to shirts like you would not believe. And with these Ann Collar shirts, I can get it out.
Amanda, I have to wear a special bib when I eat spaghetti with a white shirt on. But with Ann Collar shirts, it takes those little tiny nicks and stains, and they don't stick to you. Yeah, you don't have to dump a bucket of stuff on you, but it would repel that too.
You've got to try one. So whether it's the traditional white shirt or any of the patterns they have, it's Ann Collar, and they're made right here in Utah.
If you've never tried Ann Collar before, we have got permission to give you 15% off at andcollar.com and go get your first. Use the code KSL15.
That's Ann Collar, andcollar.com.
Some stories are written in ink. Others are written in the heart. Experience the romance and the legend of Titanic, the exhibition, now open in Sandy. Stroll the promenade under a starry sky, stand before the grand staircase, and connect with true stories of love and heroism that have captivated the world for over a century. Discover a date night or a family outing unlike any other. Tickets are moving fast. Book yours at thetitanicexhibition.com. Titanic, the exhibition, at the shops at Southtown and Sandy.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-777-1225. 800-777-1225 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-777-1225.
Let's retrofit and renovate old buildings before it's too late. 45 water pipes and power lines to keep things flowing and get back online. B-I-G-O-N-E. Let's work together to get ready. We don't have to be scared. Visit earthquakes.utah.gov to prepare.
Brought to you by Envision Utah.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Earn 4.24% on savings at uccu.com. Here's Cormac Bone.
Well, we don't have too many major delays. The roadway's a little bit calmer in the midday drive. We do have some light southbound I-15 delays. It looks like they've actually cleared out, though. It was a little slow for a second approaching 4500 south on southbound I-15. Once again, a clean and clear drive now, though, between Ogden and Provo on I-15. We do have eastbound delays on Pioneer Crossing still in place due to that construction, starting at 7800 west and reaching over to Mill Pond Road. Whether you park it, stripe it, or pave it, GoPave Utah has your blacktop covered at gopavutah.com. That's gopavutah.com. Call or visit gopavutah.com. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we should get up to 79 today and 83 tomorrow, which would set records for both days. Then we cool off a bit, highs in the upper 60s on Thursday and Friday. Right now it's hazy and a few clouds at 63 degrees in Salt Lake City. I'm Andy Farnsworth from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
So it's Holly Richardson and Jim Bennett, and we're going to talk about Gen Xers. I'm not quite a Gen Xer.
I'm solidly Gen X, even if my children try to say otherwise. They'll okay boomer me into submission, but I'm solidly Gen X.
That's funny. So Gen X is actually people who are age 45 to 64. And I saw this, that in Salt Lake County alone, nearly 30,000 Gen Xers are skipping needed health care because they can't afford it.
That's a devastating statistic.
It is. It really is. So Afton January, she's the Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services Communications and PR Manager, is on the line with us to help us learn a little bit more. Thanks for joining us, Afton.
My pleasure.
So can you tell us, just give us an overview about this issue, because it seems like a really big one.
Yeah, so we are working on a community initiative called Age Friendly Community with AARP. And a part of this is just doing research to understand what's going on in our community as a government entity and hopefully to inform some future planning. And what we are finding with our early results of the research that's been done is that the affordability gap is really significant in Salt Lake County, and in particular in the healthcare space. So 11% of adults ages 45 to 64 in Salt Lake County cannot afford needed health care, which is really a critical access issue for people who aren't yet eligible for Medicare. And what really surprised me about this data is that for people who are uninsured, they're facing even greater challenges, something like 37.2%. So nearly 40% of adults who are not insured are not getting needed health care either.
Afton, I just have a follow-up, because you're saying that there's this gap even with people who are insured.
Absolutely. Yes, that 11%, those 30,000 people represent people who maybe do and maybe don't have insurance. It's all people of that age group. And in Salt Lake County alone, 30,000 people are skipping going to the doctor when they need to.
Well, in the last government shutdown, one of the big political footballs was the Affordable Care Act tax credits, the subsidies to allow people to get insurance. Is any of this due to those changes?
You know what? It's not. That is what I think is so interesting about this data is that we started conducting this research with the Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute last year. So the data that they've been looking at comes from places like the American Community Survey, which all of that data is going to be about a year old. So we don't know yet what the impact of those ACA subsidies expiring will be.
So
but
it
I
could
think
get
it's really
worse as a
fair.
result.
Yeah, it's fair to assume that this 11%, if that's before those subsidies, that for many people we're going to see more individuals skipping doctor's appointments.
So, Afton, what kind of long-term impacts can a community see or individuals see by skipping healthcare in their, it's not even later, but mid-adulthood years?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the things that's really important to us as Aging and Adult Services is that this is really a critical window for prevention for people in those, 40s, 50s, and early 60s. If you have high blood pressure now and you're in your 40s and you don't take care of it, you can really expect to have some challenges with having chronic conditions later in life. That's true of things like diabetes, cholesterol. For people who are in that age range, going to the doctor now, getting the health care that you need now is really, really critical for preventing having chronic conditions later in life. Now, Aging Services can help with evidence-based classes to help people manage those chronic conditions, but we would much rather not see you in those classes and see you, working out at our rec centers and accessing community resources that we list on our websites to help people who are in this kind of position.
Well, Holly, I want to thank you very much for saying that I'm a mid-adult as opposed to a late adult.
Well, I don't think I'm a late adult.
No, I don't think you are either, but I think I very much appreciate that. And so looking at this, Afton, what's the solution? Doesn't sound like there's a silver bullet. Is there something, but what is it we can do to change this?
Absolutely. There's definitely not a silver bullet. And I think it's really important for us at Salt Lake County to remember that as a government entity, we cannot control the price of health care. But this is part of our data-driven planning to help us make our community more age-friendly over the long term. So what we will be looking at as we complete this data research and develop an action plan is what other measures of affordability and what other ways can we support people in healthy lifestyles during this age group so that once they are older and maybe qualify for things like Medicare, they won't find themselves in this type of position. So I don't know what the solution is yet, but I know that we're going to be putting our heads together and looking at our community as a whole and seeing how can we make this area that we love so much more affordable and a place where everyone can thrive.
Afton, you mentioned that this is one of several parts of some research you're doing. Can you tell us what the other parts are looking at?
Absolutely. So we've contracted with Kempsey Gardner Policy Institute to release 3 research reports, and the first one is on health and nutrition. The full report will be released next month in April. Those will follow with reports about economics and demographics and housing affordability, which we also know is a huge issue. So this is a year-long research process for us in receiving and understanding the research, and then we'll start that planning process and hopefully move the needle on some of the issues that impact people in Salt Lake County.
Are you optimistic?
I am optimistic. I think we have a really great community that knows how to come together when things are hard. I've been with the county since for years now, including during the coronavirus times. And I remember very clearly how well the county worked as a unit between cross apartments and between people to really help try to, prevent the worst of that disaster. And I'm really optimistic that we have great people and really good leaders at Salt Lake County who are going to look at this data very seriously and ask the hard questions about what we can do as a government, a local government, to make our community a better place to live for people of all ages.
Afton, one final quick question. If people want to know more information about what's available right now, where can they go?
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. For those who are struggling with accessing health care, I really want to point them to the Salt Lake County Health Department's resources. They maintain a website, slco.2/community resources. That lists a number of resources for healthcare, including those free, low-cost, and sliding scale health clinics. So if you are someone who's listening and putting off going to the doctor, there are places that you can go that are low cost. And we really encourage you to visit our county health department's website, or just go to slco.2/resources for a plethora of resources that don't only cover healthcare affordability, but other things that might be useful to people who are struggling right now.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Afton January, Salt Lake County Aging and Adult Services Communications and PR Manager. When we come back, look, it's spring season, but it's also allergy season. I can tell. I live it every year. It started early this year. And did you know that Utah has some of the worst cities for allergies in the nation?
That doesn't surprise me.
Does not surprise me either. We're going to learn more about what you can do to manage those allergies after the break.
Hello, this is Joe Cordell of Cordell & Cordell. Cordell & Cordell is the largest family law firm in the country, with over 35 years of helping clients navigate divorce. If you or someone you care about is facing a family law issue, let us set up a 1-hour Cordell Consult. The Cordell Consult is a meeting with a local attorney who will give you clear guidance about your options, whether it's a separation, a postnuptial agreement, divorce, or custody. Take the first step. Visit CordellCordell.com. That's CordellCordell.com.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
Check engine or ABS light on? Take the guesswork out of your warning lights with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
How can you free your team from time-consuming office tasks? Amazon Business. Smart business buying tools enable buyers to find and purchase items fast so they can focus on strategy and growth. Free up your teams and focus on your future. Learn more at amazonbusiness.com.
Pizza's here.
Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
I'm Christian Staples with Arctic Spas. Wellness starts at home. At Arctic Spas, we have what you need for home wellness. Hot tubs provide physical and mental relaxation, improve circulation, and stimulate better sleep, all while giving the perfect time to connect with loved ones. Swim spas and all-weather pools provide at-home, low-impact exercise, a break from gravity, and family fun. Cold tubs provide muscle recovery, reduce soreness, and provide the best mental boost. Saunas help you recover, detox, and improve your cardiovascular health. This can all be done at your home, ready whenever you are, and you can find it all at Arctic Spas. We are here to help you relax, exercise, and recover. We make it easy for you. You can find out more at ArcticSpasUtah.com or stop by one of our 3 stores covering all of Utah in Salt Lake, American Fork, and St. George. Arctic Spa, the only spa built for Utah's harsh climate.
Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with human kindness is here. Hello, human kindness.
Hi, I'm Ryan Blaney, a third-generation race car driver, and we dedicate a lot of our time to going as fast as possible. My grandpa Lou is the reason why my dad and I started racing, and I'm really proud to follow in his tracks. But when my grandpa was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, it was a very unexpected bump in the road for us. I've learned a lot on this journey with my Grandpa Lou, and the memories of my grandpa will always be with me. It's important to notice if older family members are acting differently, experiencing problems with their memory, or having trouble with routine tasks. Talking about Alzheimer's can be really tough, but if you notice something, have a conversation with your loved one. Encourage them to see a doctor or offer to go with them. Early detection of Alzheimer's can give your family time to explore support services, make a plan for the future, and access available treatments. The Alzheimer's Association provides care, support, and research to help you take control of the situation with your family and manage the disease together. If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. Visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
The new Inside Sources.
Seasonal allergies are getting an early start, and boy, do I know it. So this week, I have some allergy issues, hay fever related, but in February, I thought I was going to die. Like my eyes were puffy and watery, and I could feel it in my cheeks, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, just kill me now.
Well, we didn't really have a winter this year.
I know. It was earlier allergy season, and I found out, thanks to Lois Collins, who's in studio with us, that Utah has 3 of the top 20 cities in the nation. So Provo, for allergies, Provo's number 4, Ogden's number 8, and Salt Lake City is number 13. That is terrible.
Here's a shocker. Boise is number 1.
That's also terrible.
Which was kind of surprising.
I mean, just, is there anything about the West here that makes it more prone to allergies?
And maybe. I mean, right now, part of it's the season of what is actually blowing pollen around. And right now, we're in the middle of juniper, cedar, elm, and maple. And that will go through May, and we have a lot of those. But the other thing is you don't even have to have them nearby because they're teeny, 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 tiny pollen, and so they can blow miles and miles and miles.
Wow.
And so we can all feel the effect of whatever blows our way, which is part of it.
We don't have juniper on the East Coast?
I think it's weather pattern. They've had actual winter, like pretty severe winter.
That's true.
And we haven't, but before we started talking, in a pre-talk, as you would call it, we were talking about the fact that the places that have the least pollen right now and the least hay fever right now are like really hot places. But it's a little bit confusing because part of the reason that we are having this potentially long season is because we're warmer than usual. So it's kind of a combination. I guess when you hit a certain point in hot, it won't be so bad. I don't know.
It's been interesting to me, right? So I've been allergic to grass too, and in fact, I have adopted biological children. I'm sorry to my biological kids because they all got allergies, but one of them could not mow the grass because he came in with his eyes like they'd be like almost so swollen he couldn't even see out of them. I'm like, I'm so sorry for that.
Yeah, that is the one plus side to the fact that I developed a grass allergy, is that part of the yard work belongs to my husband. But even plucking weeds, I'm not allergic to weeds, but being by grass when it's doing that. So there are things that you can do to protect yourself.
So can you talk to us, Lois, a little bit just about the process of having an allergic reaction? Is that something you can talk about?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about it. I will tell you I'm not a doctor and I can get some of it wrong, but my understanding is that it kicks off histamines and goes through your nose, your eyes, your oral cavity. You get these histamines going, and your body thinks that whatever it gets, like the pollen that you inhale, is an enemy and thinks it's out to harm you. So it decides to fight back on your behalf, and it overreacts and kicks up this little firestorm that turns into the reaction to whatever the allergen is. And it's an overreaction. So then the answer is to take antihistamines or to prevent it from happening. In the case of a grass allergy, you could wear a mask when you go outside. If you know that you're allergic to stuff outside, you can make sure that you don't wear the same clothes all day. When you get in the house, change clothes, that kind of thing. Wash your hands. Don't for Pete's sake, wipe your nose or rub your eyes or whatever, even though they itch. So there are things that you can do, keep the windows closed and pay attention to what is going around right then. And when I say going around, I'm talking about little teeny tiny pollen things.
Well, in the pre-talk, you were also talking about the idea that if you develop an allergy as a child, it's possible to outgrow it. But when you would develop it as an adult, that's far less likely.
As an adult, you pretty much have it. So kids quite frequently can outgrow allergies. And if you get immunotherapy, there's an exception. If you're allergic to cats and you go to an allergy specialist and you get a little teeny tiny dose of what you're allergic to, you can build up some immunity. But it's much less likely that you're going to naturally get over an allergy when you're an adult. Once you get it, it's yours. It's a gift.
Well, is there anything you can do to prevent getting the allergy?
Pay attention to things like pollen. Pay attention to the allergens that are going around that you might be susceptible to. Don't go outside and do a lot of yard work during the times when you know that there's a lot of ragweed.
I just wanted you to stop it. Don't go outside and do
yard work.
Yeah, don't. But it's hard. I mean, in spring you're going to do some yard work, or you're going to have a really crappy yard.
What I'm trying to do is find an excuse not to do yard work. So
do you have allergies?
No, but I don't like yard work. That's all.
So that's called buy a condo.
Okay, Lois. So I have allergies to other things as well, cats and dogs, and I live with cats and dogs. So I have figured out a way, I guess, to live harmoniously, more or less. What are some treatments that we can do? You already mentioned, wash your hands, change your clothes, those kinds of things. And I will say the rub your eye. Sometimes I can't help myself, and then I can literally feel the histamine response where it's like everything becomes 10 times worse, and I regret it. My eyes stuck shut the next morning, right? But sometimes I can't resist. What are treatments that we can do to help with these allergies?
So you can do over-the-counter medications like Zyrtec or Allertec. There are a bunch of them. The first thing I would do, and especially if you have bad allergies, is talk to your doctor, because sometimes you can get a low-dose antihistamine prescription that will actually kind of build up and prevent some of the allergies from occurring. So the first thing, if they're severe allergies, I would talk to a doctor about what to do. If they're not severe allergies, then you can either do avoidance, lots of hand washing, keep your windows closed so that you're not inviting the pollens in when it's allergy season and you're sensitive. And you can also just be aware of what's going around. Like, there are lots of places. You can go to WeatherBug. Mm-hmm. You can go to KSL. And
KSL has a pollen count.
See what the pollens are. Go to the places that tell you what's up and go, I'm really sensitive to grass right now, so I'm going to take precautions.
So can I ask you, this is maybe a trick question for you. Sorry if it is. There was, it seems like it's a few years ago where some science was coming out saying the stuff that's being sold over the counter is not actually that effective.
Diphenhydramine specifically was not that effective.
Against allergies?
It's against allergies and some colds. It's not.
So what I found is
effective.
I have to get the allergy medicine that has the ephedrine in it, but it's the real stuff, not the fake stuff that wasn't really helpful. And I have to show ID to get it. So yes, I have ID.
Yeah. So otherwise, they think that you're starting a meth lab.
I know, and it's allergy medicine. It's like, come on, you guys, for real.
And you have to be a certain age.
I know. Yeah, you have to be like 21 to be able to buy it. I have to show ID, and I can't buy it too often because, heaven forbid, I have bad allergies. So.
Well, have you seen Breaking Bad?
No, actually, I have not.
You need to watch Breaking Bad. I mean, there it is.
Okay. So the 10 cities that have the fewest challenges, this is just straight from you. Houston, Texas, New York, which I thought was interesting. Maybe it's because there's no plants there. It's just all full of people and buildings.
There's no room for trees anymore.
Yeah. So San Antonio, Texas, Boston, Phoenix, Fresno, California, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, El Paso, Texas, McAllen, Texas, and Tucson, Arizona.
And that's now. That's
now.
This year.
Right.
So
Could
a
change.
lot of that is the weather pattern.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder, I was talking, I had a child, the same child who couldn't mow the grass. He had a really bad allergic response to a wasp sting. And I'm telling you, my kids were not always the brightest. So they went outside. They were younger, I don't know, maybe like 5 and 7, my 2 sons, and they started hitting a wasp nest with a stick because they thought it was funny to see the wasps fly out until they got stung, right? So my son got stung on his ear, and it became so big, it looked like, what was that movie, Hitch, where everything like just got all swollen and distorted. And I literally took him into the pharmacy and said, "What do I do?" And they're like, lots of Benadryl. And it took weeks for it to go back down. We've actually come to the end of our time. Thanks, Lois, for joining us. When we come back after the break, we're going to find out about the Dignity Barometer just released today that finds that while an overwhelming amount of Americans say that people deserve to be treated with dignity, only about 30% say we actually treat each other that way. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott, KSL's top story this hour. And it is breaking news. Police say a bomb threat was called into North Star Academy Charter School today, forcing officials to delay the start time by several hours. Saratoga Springs police tell us a minor called in the threat around 7:30 this morning before school was in session. Teachers and staff had to evacuate, and the school told parents to keep their students at home. After a thorough investigation, police determined it was a hoax. The school says students will return to class for the rest of the day. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Pfizer is working on a vaccine for Lyme disease. It says the 4-dose vaccine has about a 70% effectiveness rate. ABC News chief medical correspondent Dr. Tara Narula has more.
The caveat to all of this is that this study, in terms of it did not meet its primary endpoint or its main goal statistically. And it was really only when they reanalyzed the data that they found, in a different way, that they found the 70% effectiveness. It has not been peer-reviewed. It has not been published. So the big question is, when this goes in front of the FDA and regulatory agencies, will they say this is enough in order to approve this vaccine, or will they require more research and more data?
Pfizer says it plans to submit it to regulators to then be approved by the FDA. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 77 points. The S&P is down 4 points. And coming up, record high heat. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Imagine a world where you can leave the house and take your home Wi-Fi speeds with you. Thanks to Xfinity Mobile, it's not just a fantasy. Just picture it. You're at your kid's soccer practice, streaming the other game in 4K. Just like that. In the airport, download a cozy family comedy in a snap with Wi-Fi power boost. What if the places you had to be felt more like everywhere you wanted to be? That's the magic of Xfinity Mobile. Reliable Wi-Fi and 5G when you need it. Xfinity. Imagine that. Cut your mobile bill in half with 2 lines of unlimited. Visit xfinitymobile.com to learn more. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet required. Savings based on promotional rate for 2 lines of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited versus regular rates for 2 lines of T-Mobile Experience More, Verizon Unlimited Plus, and AT&T Starter as of 2/10/26. Taxes, fees, extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Xfinity. Imagine that.
Are your investments in the right accounts? What's best, traditional or Roth? Are you receiving all available tax deductions? Are you paying as little in tax as you can? These are all questions you can't afford to get wrong. Hi, I'm Jeff Jr., founder of Trajan Wealth, and in many cases, it's not what you make, but it's what you keep that makes the real difference. Trajan Wealth and Trajan Tax work closely together exclusively. No more guessing about whether you should do a Roth conversion, or if maxing out your 401k is really the best option. Our nationally recognized fiduciary advisors and CPA team work in tandem to make sure your tax strategy works with your investment strategy. We'll even do your tax preparation. One team, one strategy. Isn't it time for a second opinion? Call Trajan today, 801-207-9900. That's 801-207-9900.
Trajan Wealth, an SEC registered investment advisor. Additional services through Trajan Estate and Trajan Tax. Additional disclosures and accreditation at TrajanWealth.com.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
Need life insurance but have diabetes, high blood pressure, or on anxiety meds? If you're a 50-year-old male, even porky, or with type 2 diabetes, $1 million of life insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. For affordable term life insurance, call Term Provider and speak with Big Lou at 800-777-1225. 800-777-1225 or visit biglou.com. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. 800-777-1225.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big with construction loans at UCCU. Here's Michelle Rowe.
Looks like we have construction slowing things down on Highway 89. This is right around 2300 North Warm Springs Road, near the North Interchange. Also looking at some delays for drivers on Pioneer Crossing as you're headed east toward I-15, also due to construction. Celebrate Easter at Abravanel Hall March 30th. Join Grammy-nominated Jenny Oaks Baker and experience The Redeemer, a breathtaking musical journey honoring Jesus Christ. Save 15% with code RISEN15 at jennyoaksbaker.com. I'm Michelle Rowe in the KSL Traffic Center.
We can see record-breaking highs today, tomorrow, and later this week. Today, temperatures will get up to the 80s with mostly sunny skies. Right now, it is 64, mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com, or Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's Holly Richardson and Jim Bennett today. And Jim, I want to start this the next two segments by reading a little bit of an opinion piece by Judge Thomas Griffith. He served on the the United States Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit until 2020. He wrote this piece in the Deseret News, and he started it by saying, as a former federal judge who remains active in public life, I've been asked many times of late whether I think our republic is in the midst of a constitutional crisis. He says, I believe we are. And then he says this. He says, in my view, the greatest danger to the Constitution right now is the toxic polarization that is dividing our people. Social science research shows that we have not been so divided as a people since the Civil War. What is uniquely troubling about this divide is that arguments about ideas, a sign of a healthy democracy, has been largely replaced by contempt for those with whom we disagree. Large majorities of Republicans think that Democrats are immoral and evil. Large majorities of Democrats think the same about Republicans, and a recent Pew survey found that the United States is the only nation in the world where a majority of its people believe that most of their fellow citizens are bad people.
That is deeply, deeply depressing.
It is.
I mean, we're both sort of veterans of the political scene.
Yeah.
And I think it's worth noting that we met each other when we were both working for Republican campaigns.
Yeah.
Different Republican campaigns, but back then, you were able to run against people with whom you disagreed, and you would still disagree with them, and you could still be friends with them.
That's right.
And I really think, and I mean, one of the reasons I'm no longer a Republican is exactly what we're talking about here, is that people are going to get angry, but I'm going to bring up President Trump because I think he's given people license to be cruel and to be divisive and to challenge not just the policy differences, but the moral character of the people we disagree with. And I think that has poisoned our discourse to the point where it's exactly where Judge Griffith says that it is.
So I wanted to talk with Tammy Pfeiffer. She's the Chief Impact Officer for Unite.us and co-creator of the Dignity Index. And they just released a new poll today that they're calling the Dignity Barometer. Thanks for joining us, Tammy.
Hey, thanks for having me. And Holly, I've got to start with a shout out for Jim's dad, Senator Bennett. He was the first federal elected official I met when I was serving as a city council person in Logan, Utah. And he was just such a great role model of what a politician, quote unquote, could be, a public servant, really, and modeled really the things that we talk about with the Dignity Index. He modeled that in his discourse, in the way he interacted with citizens, with locally elected officials, and I'm just thrilled that Jim's on the program with you today.
That's very, very kind of you, and I love hearing stories like that. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Tammy, I wonder, before we talk about the Dignity Barometer, really briefly, can you explain to Jim and our listeners the Dignity Index?
Sure. The Dignity Index is a scale that goes from 1 to 8, and it's meant to measure the language that we use when we disagree with one another, when we are angry or hurt or just in disagreement. And the bottom of the scale is the contempt side of the scale, from 1 to 4, 1 where you're dehumanizing people, really calling for violence. 4 is the first step into contempt, where you're just dismissing other people, rolling your eyes at them. The top side of the scale, the 5 to 8, is the dignity side of the scale. 5 is where you start to listen to the other side and let them be heard and say your piece. And at 6 and 7, you start to collaborate, cooperate, and admit that you might be wrong, and really listen to people's stories and their opinions. And at an 8, the top of the scale, that's when we feel like the mindset is that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity. And so we treat everyone with dignity no matter what. Even holding people accountable, we can do it with dignity. And so the Dignity Index is meant to shine a light on the language and the mindset behind the language that we use, so that we can more easily spot dignity and contempt in our public discourse.
All right, let's go to the Dignity Barometer. So you, your organization, they just released this information. I published it on Utah Policy this morning.
Nice.
Tell us about what you found out.
Well, we found out that Americans do agree that this is an issue, as Judge Griffith pointed out in his op-ed. 78% of Americans, more than 3 out of 4 Americans, are not happy with the way we treat each other, and feel like it's our division is as alarming, I should say, as the cost of living. 83% believe that it's as challenging for us and as alarming as the price, affordability, and the cost of living. So it's really a kitchen table issue. It also showed us that there's a way out. We had Americans that said, there's a way for us to get out of this. And interestingly, the people that are the most optimistic about our ability to heal our divides are people that regularly engage with people they disagree with. They are more optimistic than people who say, well, I don't really engage with people. I think we can get out of this, but at a much lower rate than people that are actively engaged in these conversations with others.
I think that's a fascinating insight, because I know that when I was working in Republican politics, you start to convince yourself that the other side isn't just wrong, they are in fact evil.
Right.
And then I ended up working in that campaign where I met Holly. I ended up working for the Democratic candidate, and I'm surrounded by all of these people that I had thought were evil. And then I start going, wait a minute, these people aren't evil. These are good people who may have some different ideas from what I do. But it's very hard to see beyond that kind of tribalism, and I think that has always been a problem. But am I wrong to attribute to say that it's gotten significantly worse during the Trump years?
Well, it's easy. It's easy to say one person or one party is responsible for all this, but and certainly we see that in the national politics in particularly, but what the survey showed us was that people, when you ask them who's responsible, their number one response is elected officials and candidates. That's the first and second response. But the third and fourth response is social media and all of us. So people are not as quick to blame it on one person. They say it's all of us. And that points to the solution or our way out. If it's not one person, causing all the problems, but we realize it's a combination of a lot of factors, then that actually opens up possibilities for us to do more to solve the problems. Because if someone else is responsible, then we don't have any responsibility, and what can we do to solve that problem? But when we realize it's not just the elected officials and candidates, it's not just social media, but it's all of us that are responsible to some degree, then that points to a way out. It points to a way for us to be part of the solution and not, just standing by waiting for someone else to change.
So on that note, this is one of the things that really stood out to me when I was looking at these poll numbers. 77% of Americans say that they treat other people with dignity, but fewer than half say that they receive dignity in return. A 30-point gap, right? That tells me that we are blind to our own language and what we do. And look, Tammy, we've already come up on a break. I'm wondering, will you please stay with us over the break so we can talk about these numbers and then more about what we can do?
You bet. Thank you.
Okay, we will be right back after the break.
Join us for one of the premier horse sales in the region. Over 80 head of quality performance horses will be offered, including ranch horses, rope horses, prospects, and trail horses. Located Wasatch County Event Center in Heber City, Utah. On March the 27th and 28th, trail competition and preview begin at 9 a.m. The tax sale will be at 6 o'clock that night on Friday the 27th. The auction begins at 11 a.m. on Saturday the 28th. Whether you're looking for your next arena partner or a dependable ranch horse, this sale has something for everyone. Family-friendly atmosphere, top-quality consignments, opportunities for every level of rider. Don't miss your chance to find your next great horse. For information, consignments, and sale detail, contact Heber Valley Horse Sales or call me at 801-368-5498 or go to our website, HeberHorseSales.com. That's HeberHorseSales.com. Mark your calendar and be there Friday and Saturday, March 27th and 28th.
What in the world is going on?
You didn't hear? You can get iPhone 16e at Cricket Wireless for $0 when you switch.
iPhone 16e for $0? No way.
Yeah, and it has Apple Intelligence so you can clean up your photos. Clean up your photos!
Okay, but what's the hurry? The offer ends soon.
What they said.
Switch to Cricket and get iPhone 16e for $0 with no activation fee. Smile, you're on Cricket.
Requires new line and port in on the $60 Supreme Unlimited plan. First month service charge and tax to its sale. Terms and restrictions apply. See store for details.
Confidence is knowing you're ready to handle whatever comes your way. That's what it feels like to take on your workday with Cintas. They make sure your AEDs are up to date, your fire extinguishers are tested and inspected, your floor mats are cleaned and delivered, and your workwear looks good, feels good, and is freshly laundered with a Cintas Apparel Plus program. So are you ready to take on today? Visit Cintas.com.
Oh, I'm ready!
And get ready for the workday.
Only one type of burger. For every pallet. Fries are extra. Large in size. We've got the shakes. Going over the brim.
Hey, this is Chris from JCW's. Put a positive, delicious spin on your day at any one of our 5 locations. In Lehigh, American Fork, Provo, South Jordan, or Harriman. JCW's, quality and a lot of it.
Who is Farm Bureau Financial Services? At our core, we're relationship builders. We're home and auto bundlers, life insurers, farm and ranch protectors, and retirement planners. We're neighbors, community members, and friends. We're the people you can count on now and for years to come. Find a Farm Bureau agent at fbfs.com/protect. Farm Bureau Property and Casualty Insurance Company, Western Agricultural Insurance Company, Farm Bureau Life Insurance Company.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, do it now. Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Email from school about the incident today.
Scary.
Tell me about it. Did you have any idea that was going on?
None. I mean, you saw Derek at the game last night too. Did you have a clue?
No, but teachers like me, parents, we don't always know as much as you guys do. Kids hear first about what's going on with other kids.
Half the time, it's rumors.
It can be hard to tell sometimes, but if you're ever concerned about a friend who's having trouble with alcohol, prescription drugs, bullying, violence, anything, you need to tell an adult. Mom or me, a teacher, coach, school counselor, someone you know and trust.
Dad, no kid is gonna tell an adult about that kind of stuff.
I get it, but if we don't know, we can't help. Speaking up about a problem, that's what helping a friend is all about.
For more information, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
We asked parents who adopted teens to share their journey.
There are many times I thought, I can't do this. I mean, what parent isn't worried about? What am I not doing right? What am I not doing enough? And then I realized, wait, that's being a parent.
Don't worry about being perfect. I've had around 3 other mother figures in my life, but only one of them has taught me how a mother loves.
The greatest reward for me is he makes me better every day.
I would tell a family considering adopting a teenager that teenager, whoever it is, needs you, and they need what you have to offer.
Taylor's giving me hope. He's our son, and that is what he will always be.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to learn more. A message brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
We're talking about the Dignity Barometer. That is a new poll that was just released this morning. It shows 94% of Americans agree that everyone deserves to be treated with dignity, but only 31% believe that we actually treat each other that way. And the numbers that I was really struck by are the 77% who believe that they treat others with dignity and respect, but only 47% return the favor, so to speak. So there's a 30-point gap between our perception of how we treat others and how we're treated, which is super interesting to me. What that says is we're pretty unaware of what we're doing ourselves.
It's a very depressing statistic, I think, because we think everything is everybody else's fault, too.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? So I think Tammy Pfeiffer with us, Chief Impact Officer for Unite and the co-creator of the Dignity Index. Tammy, can you shed some light on that gap there between our own perceptions?
Yeah, and it's a blind spot. And we talk about this a lot in our work, this blind spot that we have where we don't see our own contempt. And the Dignity Index is meant to kind of explain what that looks like. If you go to our website, dignity.us or dignityus.us, you can have there's the slides from the barometer, and there's a page where you can click and say, check yourself. And it lists some of what these actions look like. Do you roll your eyes? The Gottmans, Dr. John and Julie Gottman, talk about how that's a sign of contempt. Do we dismiss people? Do we talk over them, insult them, shout them out? Those are signs of contempt. And sometimes we just don't recognize it in ourselves. For me, it's I don't do those things maybe or say things out loud, but in my mind, often I dismiss people as not worth talking to. And I catch myself and say, Tammy, that's contempt. You're at a 4 on the Dignity Index. I want to do better. But that blind spot is this blind spot that we have when you start to work with dignity principles or understand what dignity looks like, where you're listening, you're acknowledging when people make a good point, you're admitting that you maybe made a mistake, or, reaching out to someone after an argument or disagreement. Those are signs of dignity. And when you start to do that, you start to have this mirror effect moment where instead of pointing the finger at other people, you're going, oh, crap, that was me. I don't like those people, and they're evil, or, if you get in an argument with someone and they're so bad and they're wrong, and then you realize that maybe you have some work to do on yourself. So we call that the mirror effect. It's very, very powerful, because then we can kind of take responsibility and control of a situation that feels otherwise out of control. And we might not be able to change the whole entire culture at once, but we can change what we call subcultures, the culture in our family, the culture in our neighborhood, in our workplace. Start maybe locally to elect officials that speak with dignity. One of the striking statistics in the poll for me, you guys are both involved in politics and have been, is that 9 out of 10 Americans, 90%, said that they would support candidates who make treating people with dignity a top priority, which to me means that Americans are ready to bring dignity into the voting booth. They're paying attention. They're tired of the division, as the statistics here in the barometer state, and they're ready to look for people who will lead a different way.
I mean, I think that's true, and I think you're right that this has sort of always been with us to a large degree. I think the problem I have is that the boundaries seem to have shifted. You know, as I talk about my political past, and I don't know that there was anybody more partisan than I was, but sort of expressing that contempt, the idea that you were a 4 on the index and you just rolled your eyes, we now seem to have license to move well beyond eye-rolling, that we say things and do things that are more contemptuous and more cruel than I think at any time in memory, that we now seem to have license to do that in a way we didn't before. Do you think that that's an accurate observation?
Yes, and I think that's why so many Americans are concerned about this. That's why I think, it's 78% of Americans are unhappy with the way we treat each other and are so worried about division. 83% are as worried about this as they are the cost of living. So I do agree that things have continued to become more and more divisive. Our behavior has become maybe more and more contemptuous toward each other. And we talk about what Arthur Brooks calls the outrage industrial complex. We call it the contempt industrial complex, which is kind of surrounding us, and it fuels this, and it makes things seem like that's just the way things are now. That's the way people behave. It doesn't have to be. And that's what's hopeful in here is Americans are tired of it. They see a way out, and they see that they have a role to play in getting us to a better place.
So, Tammy, I'm going to have a couple of difficult questions maybe. One of them is you say that people are the vast majority of people would consider candidates who want to prioritize treating other people with dignity. I don't see that reflected in today's political environment. Do you think that is just like in an ideal world they would prefer to see that when they get to the voting booth it's something different? Because there seems to be a real disconnect between those numbers there.
It does seem to be a disconnect, and let me just be clear. I'm not saying that this is what Americans like. This is what they're going to do, but I am saying that this is what the polling showed: is that Americans are saying that they would be more apt to vote for the candidate that speaks with dignity. I have this conversation a lot with my friend and mentor, Governor Herbert, who says contempt wins elections. And we've seen that. So when will contempt stop winning elections? And the answer is when people start making dignity win elections. It's us, right? It comes back to the voters. So we have a role to play in this, and we have to stop being part of this cycle. And what's encouraging about the barometer was that the people that took the respondents, the Americans that took the survey, thought that way, and they started looking at dignity. In fact, in the polling, when we asked at the beginning of the polling if Americans felt like they could play a role in getting us out of this polarization, from the beginning of the poll to the end of the poll, we asked the same question at the beginning, at the end, and over the course of that 25-minute survey, the number of Americans who thought that they could personally make a difference jumped 9 points. Wow. Just in the course of taking the survey. So what that says to me is that they started to look at what dignity looks like. How is this affecting the country? How is it affecting our children? Americans said, our kids are watching. This is why we should stop doing this, why we should stop treating each other this way, because the kids are watching. So when they're starting to look at those things and they start to think about, could I make a difference? It jumped 9 points. And one of those things that they said was, I will vote for someone that speaks with dignity. Now, whether that plays out in the next election is yet to be seen, but we are seeing some small signs of that. And it brings up this other issue that we have is we could have every American committing to voting for someone that speaks with dignity. If we don't have candidates that speak with dignity, then they don't have anyone to vote for. And vice versa, we can have candidates who all day long run in a dignity platform. If they don't have constituents who will vote for them, then we still have that disconnect. So we have this parallel track that we're working on with the Dignity Index work, which is we're trying to develop a constituency that supports dignity in politics, and we're trying to support candidates and train candidates and elected officials in the dignity principles so that they will have people that support them. And then the constituents will have someone to vote for.
Well, I have firsthand experience on this. I ran my father's final campaign, and a lot of people, one of the biggest issues they had with him in that campaign was that he wasn't mean enough to the Democrats, that he actually worked with Democrats. My father, as the ranking member of, I can't even remember what the committee was, but they were responsible for the inauguration in 2008. My father was personally responsible for managing the inauguration of Joe Biden as the vice president in 2008. And so he was on television, and they showed him smiling and being nice to Joe Biden. And we got all kinds of feedback that was terrible, that Bob Bennett is just far too nice to these evil, awful people. I mean, so as you start talking about, this is what people want. I mean, I don't doubt that they're saying that to pollsters, but as Holly points out, when push comes to shove, if you do treat other people with dignity, it costs you at the ballot box. In reality,
it might. Yeah, I remember that campaign. I was sick about that campaign. I was devastated to lose him in that campaign. And a lot of things were happening. This was around the time of the Tea Party movement, and a lot of people were very, very unhappy. It wreaked a little bit of havoc in our own neighborhood caucus. And I'm not saying that this is something that's going to change overnight, because we know it won't. But it didn't. The contempt industrial complex didn't happen overnight either. It has taken us a while to get to this point. It's going to take us a while to get out of this situation we're in. But I can only continue to do what I can do and encourage people that I know. I contact my elected officials. The situation you just explained with Vice President Joe Biden, a similar thing happened with Governor Spencer Cox 2 years ago when he was at the White House. Remember? No. And they had a little toast at the NGA meetings. People are picking up on every signal and opportunity to use contempt and treat people with contempt. And what we're finding with this poll and in our work from people we hear from every day is Americans are tired of it.
All right.
Are they tired enough to change their behavior? I hope so. The polling seems to indicate so.
Thank you so much, Tammy. That was Tammy Pfeiffer with Unite and co-creator of the Dignity Index. We'll be right back.
11:31 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. A West Valley man has been arrested after police say he rode on the hood of a moving car for a TikTok video. KSL News Radio's Cameron Elliott reports.
Utah Highway Patrol says the 20-year-old man mimed acts like proposing and being on the phone in an engaging conversation, all while going highway speeds down I-215 in Midvale. During the man's arrest, troopers also say they found an open container of alcohol in his car. That car also had an expired registration. While being transported to Salt Lake County Jail, the man said he, quote, made a dumb decision.
He is being accused of aggravated disorderly conduct on the highway, reckless endangerment, and a handful of other charges. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The United States and Iran have disagree on the state of the war. President Trump says talks to end the war are going well, but Iran says there have been no negotiations.
Iran insists that no talks with the U.S. have taken place, saying anything otherwise is an attempt to influence the stock market and the price of oil. President Trump now giving the country until Friday to make a deal to end the war, backing off his threat to hit and obliterate key Iranian electrical plants if the country did not reopen the Strait of Hormuz by last night.
ABC's Rachel Scott reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 1 point, the S&P is down 16 points. And coming up, mostly sunny skies and highs in the 80s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Derek Overstreet, president of the New Millennium Group and co-host of Stop Working, Start Living with KSL News Radio. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could retire 3 to 5 years earlier than you thought possible? The things you could do, the loved ones you could spend time with, the memories that you could create. That's what our team at the New Millennium Group does. We'll walk you through the entire process every step of the way. If you'd like to get a copy of the 5-step proprietary plan that will help you retire 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible, give us a shout right now 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com. Listen, most of our listeners right now have a tax problem, not a money problem. There's not enough money in Social Security Medicare as it is. Let us show you how you can significantly reduce your taxes. That's 888-999-6370, 888-999-6370 or utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry you own isn't new. It's inherited. A ring from a grandmother. A necklace tucked away in a drawer. Pieces full of memories, but no longer your style. Duke's Jeweler specializes in reimagining family heirlooms into custom pieces you'll actually wear and love. Duke's on-site jewelers and designers work with you one-on-one to honor the original story while creating something fresh, modern, and uniquely yours. From resetting diamonds into new engagement rings to transforming multiple heirloom pieces into one stunning design, every project is crafted with care, precision, and intention. Don't let meaningful jewelry sit unused. Let it live on beautifully. Visit Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville or online at dukesjewelers.com. Duke's Jewelers, where old stories become new treasures. dukesjewelers.com.
My perfect day has sand, salt water, and friends. But my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can take me out of the moment. Now I'm all in with clearer skin thanks to Skyrizi. Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. With Skyrizi, most people saw 90% clearer skin, and many were even 100% plaque-free at 4 months. Skyrizi is just 4 doses a year after 2 starter doses.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis. Visit Skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
Traffic and weather together every 10 minutes on the 9s, brought to you by UCCU. Build smart, save big. UCCU, love where you bank. Here's Michelle Rowe.
We have a crash southbound I-15 slowing the main flow of traffic. This is right about Glover's Lane. It's just a little bit south of that. They're working on trying to get a truck that is up over the barrier wall. That is blocking at least the right lane at the moment. Also looking at delays for or a closure for drivers. If you're trying to use Beck Street, right about 20th North, that is closed both directions due to a crash and a power line that is down. Michelle Rowan, the KSL Traffic Center.
We're looking at highs in or near the 80s today and tomorrow. Things cool down on Thursday, but then we're back to record-breaking temperatures on Saturday and Sunday. Right now it is 68, mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
It's Holly Richardson and Jim Bennett today. And Jim, we talked about this a little earlier. There's a problem within the education system. There's large gaps still in learning opportunities by student race and ethnicity. And, you know, we had an opportunity to really look at, and by we, I mean researchers, not me,
not you and me,
from Harvard and BYU, to really look at how can you close those gaps. Well, we have one of the authors of that study, Bryant Jensen, Dr. Jensen from Brigham Young University. He's a professor of teacher education. And thanks for joining us, Dr. Jensen. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Can you just give us an overview of the problem that you started looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's a long-standing problem, and we've tried to resolve for the last, 3 generations, seriously. But there are significant gaps in learning opportunities across the country, not only by race and ethnicity, but increasingly by the socioeconomic status of families. And so we're really trying to understand how can faith communities be a resource to public schools to sort of shrink those gaps, to provide more meaningful and effective learning opportunities, especially for students from disadvantaged communities.
Well, how do you measure? You're talking about also how religion can be a great way to be able to close those gaps, but how do you measure that? How did your study sort of make that correlation?
Yeah, so we have a new report that just came out last week by the Wheatley Institute at BYU in collaboration with the Leadership Initiative for Faith and Education at Harvard University. And we just did a literature review to look at sort of the existing evidence over the last 20 years in terms of how, religious faith can improve learning opportunities for students. So, there are lots of ways that researchers, mostly in the U.S., but outside the U.S. also, have measured religious faith, if you can imagine, to look at how those who are more religious might benefit academically. And so it includes things like church attendance, personal practices like how often do you pray or read scripture or go to mosque or temple. And we look at sort of the faith practices of students and their families and their educators, actually, across all sorts of faith traditions, not just Christian or not just Abrahamic for that matter.
So what did you find with your research?
Yeah, I mean, several things. Some were already well established, but we found that students who engage in more religious practices, the literature calls them abiders, religious abiders, they benefit in terms of their academic outcomes. They have stronger educational attainment. They have stronger achievement on, academic tests. They have higher levels of aspiration for college attendance. And those from working class families who are religious benefit even more than those from higher income families who are religious. So we see these impacts that are substantive across many faith communities, but they're strongest for working class children.
Well, so it sounds like increasing religiosity is a great way to be able to close this gap, but wouldn't efforts to increase religiosity run into problems with regard to the separation of church and state at school?
Yeah, that's a great point. And, we are very thoughtful in our report about the, what's called the Lemon Test. There was a Supreme Court decision in the early 70s about the separation of church and state that, there should be, no, inhibiting or advancing of religion in public education. And we totally identify with that. So in addition to looking at the faith of students and families, we also looked at the educational programs of faith organizations. And this includes things like, tutoring and mentoring and college prep assistance, youth development programs, parent education classes. We're looking at sort of all of the secular education programs that religious organizations have provided. And we actually see significant effects on student outcomes. We found some evidence of stronger reading outcomes when students participate in these educational programs, stronger home literacy practices, stronger social emotional development. And so it's not just the religiosity of students and families that were interested, but also how public schools can partner with faith organizations through these programs to strengthen opportunities for students of all faiths and of no faith at all.
So can you tell us what are next steps?
Yeah, so one of the things we found was that the religious faith of educators matters as well. There's a teacher shortage in the United States. There are teachers who feel what they call demoralized in the profession because they don't have the supports they need. And we found that teachers who identify as more religious more often felt called to the profession. They talk about, drawing on their religiosity to manage stress in the profession, to sustain enthusiasm, and even to make instructional decisions. So we have a series of recommendations. I don't need to go through all of them in the report, but one of them is to sort of give educators more opportunities to explore how their faith in their public school work can strengthen their professional experiences. And then also we just want to build more awareness around partnerships that respect, constitutional limits and sort of relationships between church and state, can build more meaningful partnerships, especially in disadvantaged communities in Utah and throughout the country.
Well, if you're trying to build greater religiosity in teachers, that strikes me as an even more sort of constitutionally fraught exercise than in students.
Yeah, well, it's not about, so teachers already are more religious, significantly more religious than other professions on average, and it makes sense. You know, they feel this call to the profession, and often they talk about that call as being sort of an experience with the divine or the transcendent. And so we're not trying to encourage more religiosity. We just think that there should be spaces for them to draw on all of their resources, including their resource from religious faith, to sustain enthusiasm, to address the thorniest challenges that they face in teaching, in managing classrooms, and working in public schools. So that would very much be an ecumenical and interfaith effort, not to increase religiosity of teachers in schools, but to help them draw on whatever spiritual orientation they have to sort of do their work more effectively and to stay in the profession that they love, to remoralize the profession, if you will.
So just in the last few seconds we have, Dr. Jensen, if people want to learn more about this, where can they go?
Yeah, so we have a report. There's a website, wheatley.byu.edu, has the report there. So if you just type in faith and educational renewal, that's the name of the report, but wheatley.byu.edu/faith in education has the report there, and you can learn more. We have an event tomorrow in Cambridge, Massachusetts at Harvard, and we'll have one also in Provo on May 7th that's open to the public. And so especially faith leaders and school leaders who are interested in finding more ways to partner.
All right. Thank you so much. That was Dr. Brant Jensen, a professor of teacher education at BYU, with this new study in conjunction with Harvard. Look, when we come back, I want to talk to you about the Salt Lake City Airport and their food pantry for TSA agents. Stay with us over the break.
Many people worry they're not making the right investment choices inside their 401ks. Did you know that you might have a little-known opportunity to add some additional investment choices to your 401k and get the help and recommendations you've been looking for? This exciting feature is called a self-directed brokerage window. And the best part? The money still stays within your 401k. Learn how the trusted advisors at Capital Wealth may be able to expand your investment portfolio. To learn more, call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Improving your 401k might mean the difference of retiring a few years earlier. Let's find out. Schedule your no-cost 15-minute consultation with the Capital Wealth team today. Call or text the word VISIT to 801-877-9800 or go to CapitalWealth401k.com. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at kslnewsradio.com/contests.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now.
800-551-7672.
Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS.
Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start.
Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems.
We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau.
You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com
or call 800-551-7672. That's 800-551-7672.
Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
You deserve a home that's truly your sanctuary. Why are you waiting? Dreammaker Bath and Kitchen helps turn someday into today. A space that works and feels like you. Because design and build live under one roof, your remodel experience stays organized. From the first discovery consultation to the final walkthrough, with one team from start to finish. You deserve a home that you can truly be happy in, and that's possible right now. A clear, structured timeline keeps guesswork out of your kitchen or bath project, and it starts with your budget and a fixed price. Then the detailed plan begins with smart and stylish selections, so you know exactly what to expect. Dream Maker Bath and Kitchen is built on integrity and customer focus, and that shows up in the little things, clean job sites, and proactive updates that keep you fully in the loop. Back nationally and 3 locally owned Wasatch Front locations. Schedule a consultation at dreammaker-remodel.com. That's dreammaker-remodel.com. Enhancing lives, improving homes. dreammaker-remodel.com.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. The Rosewood Group helps organizations strengthen leadership, align teams, and build healthy workplace cultures. Through consulting and training, they guide businesses in clarifying vision, improving operations, and developing people to support long-term growth. Founder Victoria Bowman joins us with more.
The way an organization is run affects far more than profit. It affects the people inside it. When leadership, teams, and operations are misaligned, performance suffers. But when they are aligned, organizations can operate at their highest potential. I've spent my career in education studying the psychology and business practices that shape leadership, culture, and long-term success. At the Rosewood Group, we focus on the often invisible factors that determine whether an organization thrives or struggles. We work to align people, processes, and strategy so teams have clarity, leaders build trust, and execution becomes stronger. The Rosewood Group partners with organizations across industries, and we have a special place in our work for nonprofits. By offering specialized pricing, we help nonprofits function as intended and expand the impact they make in their communities. When organizations get this right, everyone benefits. To learn more, visit therosewoodexperience.com.
With the guidance and support of the Rosewood Group, organizations across Utah are building stronger foundations for long-term success. Their work helps develop leaders, empower employees, and foster workplace cultures where people can grow, thrive, and make a real impact. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
And expanded Inside Sources.
Jim, we have come to the end of our show already, if you can believe it.
It goes so fast. I'm amazed.
It goes so fast. So we have kind of been waiting on a press conference to give an update on that LaGuardia Airport plane crash where an Air Canada plane collided with a fire truck, killing 2 pilots. We haven't seen that start yet, but we'll keep an eye on it. But right here at home, many TSA agents, as you know, have continued to work without pay. And in Salt Lake City, there is a way that people can help TSA agents out. And KSL TV's Debbie Worthen shared more details on a food pantry that's right at the airport.
There are a few different drop-off locations where we can all help out. And what they're doing is they are contributing to a food pantry that is now available for TSA agents who are still out here working.
The last few weeks, we have seen some of the busiest days ever here at the airport.
And Nancy Vollmer with the Salt Lake Airport says TSA agents here are working and they are keeping those massive crowds moving and doing so with kindness. She says out here they want to support those agents any way they can, and they've set up that working food pantry complete with food and gift cards to help the agents with other expenses too.
So the gift cards could go to like gas because they still have to drive into the airport. We know the price of gas has spiked more than $1 since the bombing started in Iran. And also it's interesting to me, you can donate meat in their freezer. So it's a place where people can really step up and help these people who are working without pay.
I mean, we were just talking about the difficulty of contempt and all that kind of thing. It's just so refreshing to see people on the other side being kind. Kindness is it seems so rare these days.
It does. Look, I want to talk about some fun facts on this day as well, and you had one from 30 years ago. You want to share that one?
Well, yes, and this is a deep cut for a lot of folks, but for me, everything always comes back to The Simpsons.
That's funny.
And it was 30 years ago today that the episode A Fish Called Selma aired, which includes the musical Stop the Planet of the Apes, I Want to Get Off. And Troy McClure sings the Charlton Heston part and has one of the funniest lines ever written in any sitcom, where he sings, I hate every ape I see, from chimpanzee to chimpanzee.
Oh, gosh.
I just think I don't think it gets any better than that.
Okay, well, that is a fun fact for you.
For me, not for anybody else.
No, it's great. It's great. Our producer, Caitlin, had a fun fact. In 2006, Hannah Montana premiered. It's been 20 years.
Oh.
You get the best of both worlds. Chill it out, take a
It feels like, gosh, that feels like a long time ago. So the Hannah Montana 20th anniversary special is available to stream on Disney Plus and Hulu. It's great for millennials and Gen Z. I don't know. Yeah.
I wonder how Miley Cyrus feels about that.
I don't know. Hillary Duff is back though. So
I
have this fun fact. This is about KSL. So ourselves. KSL Radio began in Salt Lake City not as KSL. It originally began as KZN, but it changed to KSL on this date in 1925. So we are 101 years old today. Happy birthday
as
to
KSL.
us. As KSL Radio, yeah. Channel 5, KSL TV, didn't start broadcasting until 1949. So this is a fun fact, and I don't remember the date exactly, but we've had Sarah Weaver in here before sharing, actually maybe it was Ryan Jensen, the current editor of the Church News, but he shared that the very first broadcast for Music in the Spoken Word, they were here in the KSL broadcasting studios, and they literally ran a line over to the Tabernacle, and they had like a single microphone.
Yeah.
That's how they broadcast Music in the Spoken Word on the very first day.
I think there's a picture of that.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
But before every Music in the Spoken Word broadcast, they come out and they talk about the history. And they've told that story many, many times, that there was just some guy on a ladder standing there with a microphone, and that was it.
Some guy on a ladder. And for our listeners who don't know Jim, he's part of the Tabernacle Choir now. So Music in the Spoken Word, I think hit its 1,000th episode last year.
5,000.
5,000.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's right.
Yeah.
So I was there when that was it was aired, right? When it was on. It was really amazing. I really loved it.
Yeah, that was a really lovely week because they invited all of the people who'd been in the choir to come up for one last number.
And they all sang and everybody was crying. It was that was amazing.
It really was a lovely day.
So I have a couple of other fun facts for the day. So it's March 24th. And in 1826, 100 years ago today, Matilda Jocelyn Gage was born. So she was a founding member of the National Women's Suffrage Association, which, of course, that didn't happen until 1920. So she was a prolific author. She was an abolitionist, a free thinker, a women's rights and Native American rights activist. But here's the kicker. So there's something called the Matilda effect, and it was named after her. And it's the theory that a bias exists that causes the contributions of female scientists to be overlooked, ignored, or attributed to their male colleagues. The Matilda effect. It's a real thing, y'all.
Oh,
okay.
Well, the fun fact, I wish I were here yesterday, because the fun fact that I think crosses over to today is that yesterday was William Shatner's birthday, 95th birthday.
Yeah.
And he looks great. He's doing great. And, so my entire life can be summed up in The Simpsons and William Shatner.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
Star Trek, right?
Star Trek, sure.
He's done more than that, too. But, of course, that's where I pigeonhole him, is in Star Trek. So, look, on this day in 1832, Joseph Smith, who was the founder, of course, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, was beaten, tarred, and feathered in Ohio.
Oof.
March 24th. So,
that's not a fun fact.
That is not a fun fact. That is just a fact.
Just a fact.
In 1882, there was a German scientist who discovered and described the tubercle, the bacillus, the germ that causes tuberculosis. Right, and established germ theory, right? Because people were like, we just don't know how these things are happening. He was able to identify it and say, this is why we have tuberculosis. This is how we can also stop it. So that was amazing. That was 1882. I did want to say this. So in 1958, Elvis Presley joined the U.S. Army.
Oh, good for Elvis Presley.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you imagine any of the big stars today joining the Army? It just doesn't seem like it.
No. I can't, but maybe if we reinstitute the draft, maybe that will happen.
I guess Elvis was drafted.
Yeah,
wasn't
he was. He was drafted, as I understand.
So,
and then on this day in 1989, the Exxon Valdez crash. Do you remember that?
I do.
One of the worst oil spills in history. So that was March 24th, 1989. So it's already been a lot of years.
Well, if you see the movie Waterworld, the Valdez survives into the apocalypse when the world is covered with water.
Oh.
And these guys are out on the Valdez. And I don't know if that's a fun fact or it's not even a fact. It's fiction. So that's fun fiction.
So I want to go back to Robert. Let's see. Who is this? He's a German physicist and microbiologist who helped develop germ theory, right? So before we had germ theory, people just didn't know what caused illness. But he said this, which I think is certainly applicable to today. The day will come when man will have to fight noise as inexorably as cholera and the plague.
Oh,
do we
geez.
not live in that day today?
We're living in that day.
Yesterday on the show, we talked with one of our Gen Zers who said they always have headphones plugged in, right? And that was one of the facts from the Washington Post that talked about how is Gen Z different, right? And that there's constant communication. It's a podcast, it's music, it's a video, it's something constantly at us. I just thought that really stood out to me. The day will come when man will have to fight noise as inexorably as cholera and the plague.
Yeah, it's amazing to me. I'm always scared. We talked about boomers and Gen X before.
Yeah.
But the most I get when I say okay, my kids say okay boomer to me is when I talk about how different that was. In my day, we didn't have a cell phone in
it was
class.
Attached to the wall. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, thanks for joining me, Jim Bennett, again. I really appreciate you guest hosting. It's been great. It's gone quickly. And we have Midday with Maria Chaleos up next. She has more on how the American Red Cross of Utah are helping offer support in Hawaii.